Chapter 227, The Pilgrimage 5, Dual Cultivation, plus 18. Extra Chapter, every plus $10, Patron or PayPal. Extra Chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra Chapter, 8,000 votes. After finishing up changing the energy of the Spriggan, I stood up while keeping the wild heart energy trapped between my hands. Free. Use healing and calm on it. Wolfer. Make sure to keep free safe. They nodded and retreated away from the red energy I was carrying. I walked away and went closer to Alina and Julliner, then sat in front of them. They were focused and seemed to be going through the training the right way. Haha, trapping the heart energy with your bear magica. If the world heard of it, you would be locked in a cage and turned into a lab rat. Thank you for the advice. This was a rare chance to get my hands on the heart energy from a living source. The heartstones are far too strong for me to absorb and would kill me right away. I still don't have the right tools and can only use the stones for enchanting. Yeah, you are the genius enchanter Lord John Dare. Still, what will you do with all that heart energy? You can't absorb it with your strength. You are right. I replied to the talkative shadow and decided to ignore him from this point onward to focus on the job in hand. This precious heart energy can help me grandly. I can't cultivate the power directly from Heartstone, as I need some strong Dwemer artifacts that would make me in a huge danger if word got out that I have them, so I would do with my power for now. I absorbed the heart energy bit by bit while circulating the energy within me to cultivate with it. The burning sensation invaded me, and all my skin turned hot. My goal was to refine my energy with some of that heart energy in hand, and it was working, but my body was burning hot. I could feel that profound feeling again, but if I let the heart energy go around too much, it will cripple me. After an hour or so, I opened my eyes again. I reached my limit with the heart energy, but I can't let go of it now. It started going within me and was too damn stubborn. I barely consumed half of it, but the other half was having its own thoughts and wanted to screw me. I told you not to act rashly. Now look at the trouble you got us in. Trouble? What trouble? I said as let go of the energy, and it entered me with all its power. Damn it, you won't handle all that. No, I'm not alone, I said as I looked at Alina and Julliner. Hey, that's don't tell me. You're giving them the heart energy too? Didn't I say I love it when you can't read my mind? You rascal. Forgive me, but benefiting my family is a must, I said as I aimed the Haven ring at Alina and Julliner. They were both sucked into the space of the Haven cube, and I went in after them. Inside the space that was filled with all kinds of stuff, even though they were organized neatly, John stood in front of both Alina and Joel. His skin was burning red, and his body felt like as it was on fire. John, oh gods, what happened? The girls panicked right away. It's okay, I just overdosed some podomic energy and may need some help here. What are you talking about? Alina asked. No need to explain. Find something to cool him down first. Julliner was freaking around. Don't panic. It is all under control. What I'm telling you is the coolest discovery ever. No time for that. Just hear me out. The world was created when the two primal forces, Anu and Padme, came to be and clashed together. These two powers created everything, so it is a basic logic that they should be in anything and everything. My latest research on the heart energy and the Elder Gleam energy gave me an understanding beyond what I ever imagined to be possible. The answers were around us from the very beginning. The heart energy originated from Lorcan, who was created by Sidis, which was created by Padme. The Elder Gleam energy originated from the creation of the Etiada, which are mostly associated with Anwiel, that was created by Anu. That sums all the power in the world to mainly two powers of origin, Anuic energy and Podomic energy. With the mortals spreading across the land, the two powers started taking part in all of them and changing them greatly until their characteristics could be finally fully understood. The Anuic energy characteristics are passive, negative, water, softness, female, moisture, nighttime, slowness, consuming, cold, and docile aspects of things. The Podomic characteristics are active, positive, fire, hardness, Male, dryness, daytime, restless, producing, hot, and dominant aspects of things. With heart energy in me, I can change it into vital podomic energy, then I can exchange it with your anuic energies to nourish all our energies at once. John's grand plan was revealed to the girls. They both looked at each other and were willing to help, but didn't know how to do what John said. The simplest way to do the exchange is, John ordered the ring around, and a bed was called from the other end of the Haven cube space. To do our usual thing. The girls were stunned, but Aina soon recovered first. Is that all? It will be kind of different this time, but I will guide you through it. Say no more. The two girls moved right away to help their loved one and seated him on the center. They then skipped to action right away. System. Block visual for Shadow. Come on, not every time. Shadow was completely blocked from witnessing the grand scene thaw going to happen. Alina and Jelliner started undressing John as fast as they could and freed him of all clothing. This is so perfect. Jelliner looked John's dick, and she couldn't remember it being as hard as it is now. She took in a heavy breath and lowered her posture too and took it in her mouth. She didn't know why she felt this much vigor coming out from John's body, but she got excited right away and pushed herself further to swallow John's dick more and more. Hey, careful. John, even though he was as horny as a bull, he couldn't neglect his lover's safety, but Joel was so in the mood to the point that he could see his dick moving down her throat. At that point, Alina undressed, then held John's face and started kissing him and sucking his tongue with hers. Joel let go of John's dick and switched to Alina's pussy that was already wet. You have no restraints at all. She laughed and buried her face in Alina's pussy. Alina was getting fired up by Joel's action and started losing her sense too. John, do it, don't hold back anything. She then gave John green light. John knew that Alina, who preferred slow and romantic sex, was going out of her way for his sake. He loved her so dearly, but this too is for her sake. He should give her half of the podomic power in him for her to benefit greatly. This podomic power was wild, so it needed a wild action with the energy channeling spell to stimulate the transfer. And it was then when it began. Joel moved away from Alina and stood up behind her. She then held Alina's hips and carried her while opening them wide for John. Alina wasn't expecting such a development, as she wouldn't do actions like Jelliner. Still, she only looked at John with a face blushing with desire. Jelliner, on the other hand, was experiencing a change in persona, like every time she gets horny and her smile became sadistic and crazy. Here is your beloved Alina. She wants you to fuck her and ravage her as deep as she can take. Come on, do it. John was at his limit. He stepped forward and took out Alina from Joel, then put the tip of his dick on the gates of her pussy. With the first thrust, Alina moaned the loudest she could, and her head turned back with her eyes rolling upwards. With the second thrust, her vision turned back on to see the sadistic, smiling face of Jelliner in front of her. How does it feel, sister? I love it. Of course you should. Alina was receiving a very potent energy from John and getting drained of some of her vital, anuic energy. John's hand behind her back was not only supporting her, but he was helping her to circulate the energy inside her body to start supporting all the loss of the anuic energy she was going through. The vital podomic energy of John was so vigorous that Alina felt like she was doing it with John for the first time all over again. John used his other hand to measure how much energy can Alina store in her. Once he made sure she was having what she can take, he stopped the transferring and focused on Alina. He hugged her and didn't stop thrusting until he released it all in. Alina was hugging him with her arms and legs tightly and didn't let go until her energy settled down too. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Focus on binding that energy. Don't let it escape or harm you. John laid Alina on her back beside Joel on the bed and picked a water bottle from the side to quench his thirst. Joel was looking at the glorious scene of Alina's bare body, and her smile grew wider. She moved on top of Alina and closed their faces together. How amazing! You of all people got ravaged like that. It truly was an amazing sight. Joel started kissing Alina's body and went down to against her pussy. Alina was focusing on stabilizing John's energy inside her, but she finished in time and smiled at Joel's actions. She held Joel's hair and pulled her up. "Look at you. You are so wet and like a bitch on heat." Hee hee. "Sister, you really get me well." Joel and Alina were having their time together, but Alina was having a naughty idea in mind. Without any warning, she spread Joel's legs with hers and pushed Joel away. Joel couldn't react in time, but she noticed that her thighs were held by someone. She looked behind her and saw John. He was smiling just like her from a second ago, and his blue eyes were cold. "Oh no," Jelena realized what happened. "Didn't I tell you to keep the crazy in?" "JJ, John, calm down. I was just a little excited." "Aya." John didn't give her any time to explain and went all in. Joel cried, and her body stiffened forward only to see Alina smiling back at her. "Payback, bitch." Ah. What happened with Alina happened again with Jelena. John was transferring his vital podomic energy into her with all the vigor he could muster. Even though Joel would last less than Alina, with circulating the energy like that, Joel's stamina was much better and withstood all of John's actions. Her body was rubbing against Alina's, and the two of them were moaning together. Alina was helping Joel, stabilizing the energy she was receiving from John, as she knew that Jelena was not that good with energy manipulation. The process lasted until John and Jelena had come together too, and Jelena collapsed over Alina. "Phew, this is much better now." John checked the wild podomic energy in him, and it was nothing dangerous now. There was some excessive energy, but he can bind it easily now. He can use it later to refine it for himself or transfer it to the girls. He looked at them, and they were lying together, hugging each other. He smiled and couldn't help but feel more love towards them. He told them to rest, then sat beside the bed and started cultivating. He harvested a good amount of vital anuic energy and could use it to enhance his vital podomic energy. His discovery of the two kinds of energy went way back since he started studying energies to cultivate, but he needed enlightenment to understand how to use them the way he just did. This was one of the goals he was after since a long time ago. Ever since he started his broken cultivation, he always wanted to dual cultivate with his lovers. After he achieved that at last, he would make Alina and Jelena as powerful as they can get. The future is dangerous, and only the strong would be able to survive the coming chaos. He refused to leave one of his people weak or unreliable. John hated weakness and always pushed Winterhold to pursue power. With power, he can achieve peace and protect all that he holds dear. He started cultivating with these ideas in heart. He was not sure what the future may hold other than the events he was sure of, but he shouldn't let his guard down. He already changed the fate of many people, and it will surely affect the future a lot. Things may turn out different even in the events of the game. He finally consumed all the energies he harvested for his cultivation, finished up right away. During the cultivation, he felt 2 energy pulse waves during his cultivation like those ones Alina told him about. These must carry some meaning behind them, else it would be dangerous not to know. John sighed and started thinking. His cultivation was progressing smoothly, but he lacked a lot of data. He needed a lot of researching to hone the technique even more. How much energy would it take to bring down a real dragon? How strong were the tribunal? How strong are the other heroes? How strong is Great Grandmaster FYR and Grandmaster Alf? Sigh. He thought. They're almighty. That is the answer. John was still weaker than Nurina, Johnrad, and Hilda, and these were the people he had a faint idea how powerful they are. John was lacking a strong opponent to test his power on. Even though he knew where to find some, he was still wary and careful for his friends. Still, he needs a strong opponent, and it was about time to end this pilgrimage fast. Chapter 228, The Pilgrimage and Acquiring the Blessings. Extra chapter, every plus $10, patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. And show me some cheesy comments. The girls were cultivating the energy I gave them, and it seemed that everything was in place. Meanwhile, I started crossing the T S and dotting the IS. My hand moved from a page to page, and the voice of the system was ringing in my head. How much time passed since I started taking the wild Podomic energy? 3 hours. How long did it take to transfer the energy to the girls? 1 hour. And how long did it take to absorb their vital Anuic energy and cultivate with it? 1 hour. Okay, show me my status. Name, John Dare / John Hild Firemain. Race, human Nord. Vitality, 750. Magicka, 1340. Damn, this is far better than normal cultivation. I realized the benefit of dual cultivating with hard energy. It is incredible. The increase rate of just 1 hour is almost 100 Magicka point and 40 Vitality point. I kept viewing all the statistics the system can provide and kept editing my notes. All right, remind me again, how many energy pulses come out of me when I was cultivating this time? 2 times. Only 2? Last time it was 7. This is a total of 9. Do you have any idea what does those pulses mean? Negative. Okay, this sure has to have a meaning. 9 pulses and then what? Will there be a 10th pulse? Can you show me any record of how the energy reacts during those pulses? Confirmed. A diagram appeared of the energy movements appeared on a system screen. It was really irregular, as if things were. What is the right word? I can feel that the first 8 pulses were rushed up, but the 9th was timely. The increase of the inner energy was much larger this time, that I could feel a real surge in strength. Did the girls experience any of those pulses? No, record found. You don't know, huh? I will ask them then. Send the data to the augur. He will be delighted to analyze something this new. Confirmed. With all in place, I put myself back in clothes and made the girls ready themselves too, then went out of the Haven Cube. Where were you? Free asked me. Oh, I had to teleport to some place away to take care of the harmful energy. What did I miss? The Spriggan woke up, it changed. I don't really know how you did it, but it is back to normal. Free pointed at some tree, and I noticed the changes. A layer of green has grown on the sick trees of the grove. A lot of life energy could be sensed from it too. Alina, do you sense the Spriggan? Yes, it is actually around us possessing some of those trees. Alina pointed out. Possessing trees? It sounds awesome. Joel went to a tree and knocked on it. Well, Spriggans are spirit after all. Also, our Nefertiti can possess shadows. I said, it was a very mysterious skill. Possessing is really beyond my understanding. So, can this count as us finishing the ritual of trees? I asked Free. I'm not sure, but you should meditate and find out. I took her words and gathered around the tree stone with my people, then meditated to end the ritual of the trees. The runes glowed, then dimmed down, signing that we finished the trial with flying colors. With this, the ritual of trees is complete. Free said, it took the longest so far. What is next? The ritual of the sun. There is still light in the sky, so we can reach the sunstone and maybe finish the ritual too. Okay, off we go then. We all started to pack things quickly, but suddenly Alina paused. The Spriggan talked to me. Oh, everyone paid attention. It said, thank you, Groot. You are Groot, you dump loghead. I flipped the bird to the nearest tree. Hey, that's racist. The sunstone was a bit to the south. We activated the runes and followed Free to the west. We arrived at a strange cave between the Ashland and the Snowlands, and the wind coming from it were too bone-chilling. What is wrong with this place? Jelinar asked. This is by far the most dangerous of all the rituals. This cave is called the Halls of Penumbra, and in there live some dangerous beasts. They are troll-like creatures called the Gralls. Free said, dangerous? She flew over the Grawl and held one of the spikes on its back. She found a foothold on it and slashed at its arm with the blade. Grah! A splash of blood was formed like a stroke of ink. The blood fell on the ice and started to boil, making vapor rise. I hastily pulled Wolfer away with telekinesis, as he was very close to the blood. It summons a Nordic beast of any kind to fight for the Blessed One, a requirement to become a shaman. Totem of Beasts is something I made up. The original power is Conjure Bear, but it was not accurate at all in my opinion. Agent of the Allmaker. Root of Power was added to your status. With the announcement of the system, it was my turn. A blue light shone around me like a healing spell, but it was... Fuck. I understood the effect, and my face turned pale. Root of Power, the rarest blessing to witness. I read the books about it, but it hasn't appeared for over 200 years. It can regenerate one's magicka at an insane speed for a limited amount of time each day. Still, it is very powerful. As expected of Sir John, you are truly blessed by the All-Maker like none other. I also altered the effect of Root of Power. Its vanilla effect is to reduce the cost of spells to 75% for a short amount of time. I altered it to regenerate magicka 25 times faster for a short amount of time. Before I could put my thoughts together, a strong light shone beside me. Jolinar was on fire for a second before it went out. Sun Flare, a blessing that is also rare, but I saw it once. It releases a powerful fire explosion around the bearer of the blessing. Such beauty. And at last, it was Alina's turn. Opposite to Joel, a strong gust of frosty wind came around her. North Wind, a blessing that as rare as Sun Flare. It creates a storm of wind and frost around the bearer. Very powerful. With this, the pilgrimage is over. Free said, I have never thought that a party of 6 would all receive blessings, let alone rare and different ones each. This is worthy of celebration. Please, let's head back to the village right away. It indeed is worthy, very worthy. Everyone's new blessings were indeed awesome, but mine, it is scary. How scary? First, it is the rarest of all the blessings of the All-Maker, according to Free. Second, it is just like the racial power of the High Elves, the Highborn power. Nords have the war cry power that I use and abuse in every fight, but High Elves like Faralda have the Highborn power, which is actually scary and the reason why High Elves are feared as mages. With this power at hand, and with my already high amount of magicka, I am above any High Elf I know of. Asterisk announcement. Hey guys, this is Don speaking. Some of you suggested to make some auxiliary chapters for explaining things in the novel, and I am working on it. I also posted one, but it is half-assed to make a quick explanation for the ranks of the college and the companions. I am preparing a new one about explaining the creation of the world of the Elder Scroll with my comments and explanations. You can expect it soon. Point of all this is, I want you guys to be active in discussions either here on the comments or on Discord. It always gives me a good flow of ideas to keep coming with good new plots, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Thank you for your support. Don out. Chapter 229, Ozidal's Artifacts. Extra chapter, every plus $10 patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. After the pilgrimage was over, John and his crew were all invited back to the Skull Village for a big celebration for the very successful pilgrimage. It seemed that the signs of the pilgrimage have shown themselves on the Skull Land, and the people were blessed with good luck this day. The hunters returned with a good hunt, the fishermen returned with a lot of fish, and the miners discovered a new source of starum. The Skull credited John and his crew with all the happy events that happened this day. The beautiful chief of the Skull, Fanari Strongvoice, insisted that she would drink a keg of mead with John, but he started pouring the mead into another keg in his ring. John was very sober and wanted to end this party as soon as possible. His newly gained power was blinding him to a scary point. Actually, not just him. Other than Nefertiti, who possessed John's shadow and slept in it, the 5 were trying to slip away somehow. It was when sleep time came that they could take some time alone. Goddamn, that woman drinks too much. John complained. That girl Free too. She was just one finger away from clinging to Wolfer. Bjorna complained. I doubt that he noticed anything. Jolinar said. What? Wolfer asked. See, Joel laughed. Well, it is just that he is with John a lot. I am afraid he may become another womanizer. Jornas said, Don't worry, cousin. This guy's more interested in some new blueprints than girl stuff. John said, So you are admitting that you are a womanizer? Alina remarked. Have I ever denied it? Do I have to remind you what happened? No thanks. John, open a new pocket room for us in the Haven Cube. We need to test our blessings. Jelliner said, Fine by me. John aimed his ring at everyone in the room and sucked them all in his ring. He also went after them and prepared a new pocket room. The Haven Cube space was actually a mystery on its own. John could add walls and make rooms. He also can extend the space and some other aspects. The limit was hard to define, but John was sure that he didn't need to do so, as it seemed that the space was really large. The rings sadly can't be used in combat, like stealing the opponent's weapon or locking them inside. These were some rules that John tested many times. Anyway, John made a large room away from his storage area and made a small stage. Jorna stood forward first and activated Waters of Life by praying to the Allmaker. John and Alina didn't forget to act like the eggheads. They started making notes and measuring the magnitude of Jorna's power. Next was Wolfer and Nefertiti, who used their powers with no problem at all. Waters of Life, Bones of Earth, and Totem of Beasts were three supportive powers that heal, protect, and summon. These are common around the Skull's big shots, but they were still amazing powers. Who came next were Alina and Jelliner. Alina used North Wind, summoned a real storm of both wind and frost for as long as she could. The storm was strong enough on John's recording devices and made him clap in awe. Jelliner power was as explosive as her personality. She summoned Sunflare that made her feel like a suicide bomber, but she was actually just fine. John rated both North Wind and Sunflare as expert-level spells with the ability to grow further. Lastly was John. He attached some wires to his body and stuck some short needles to his acupoints, then used Root of Power. With the activation of the power, John's body shivered, and the magicka gathered around him so fast to the point that he looked like a walking magicka concentration point like those ones in the College of Winterhold. He cast his best spells and tried to deplete his magicka, but the regeneration was simply too fast and too overpowered. Now, I'm both a Nord and a High Elf. With my potent magicka and cultivation technique, I think I will live as long as them now. High Elves can live for thousands of years the stronger they are in magic, and John wasn't planning to die from old age in less than a few hundred years. With the power in hand, he will do amazing things and trample over anyone who stands in his way. The next day came, and the people of the Skull bid farewell to John and his trading caravan that brought tons of luck to them with only one visit. John returned back to Raven Rock immediately and had a meeting with Adril Arano, the second counselor of Raven Rock, and the final transactions were complete. Now, John was waiting for Counselor Morvain to look into his request of making a business partnership with the Dare Dragon Company. After the meeting, John joined his crew in front of Coldjorn Barrow. OnGM had news of progress and said that a room was finally opened in the mine. The only problem was that it has some undead draugrs that almost injured a few workers, but thankfully the tunnel was sealed by the Dare troopers of the company. I guess we'll go in, huh? Wolfer said. We're the ones who started this, after all. John said. Correction, it was you. No one even believed you when you said there's a Nordic ruin down there. Now, I'm glad you do. Gear up in 1 hour. I want a small team of elites and a support team. I'm taking the front. John announced his intention to face the tomb, and the men started running around. John was known to be a demon-like taskmaster, but he always rewarded his men with drinking breaks and vacation they never heard about. So it was all good and fine to just do the unreasonable stuff he asks about. After some time, John and his crew led the first team in Coldjorn Barrow. Unlike most barrows in the game, this one needed a lot of work and money to unearth its treasure. It would take a lot of time in the game because the player had to cooperate with a certain explorer to get the job done. Luckily for John, he had his own company. The excavation was neatly done and no casualties occurred. Those miners who faced the undead draugrs were led to safety and promised a reward by John before he goes in. After John went in, he started to make a formation to handle the narrow tunnels of the barrow. Wulfur led a band shield bearers, and John followed with Alina and Joel. After the first tunnel, a horde of draugrs could be detected by John's magic. They have discovered us. Get into formation. The Dare troopers formed a shield wall right away. Then John, Alina, and Jelinar aimed their staves and weapons forward. Through the long tunnel, John saw the draugrs on its other end. He recognized that type of draugrs once he saw their style right away. These were draugr wights, a higher form of draugr that live in the ancient Nord ruins. They were not the friendliest type of draugrs, as they were both magic and Thursdayam users. Kilanas Dylan. Bow before dead. Bolag Oz, Mal liar. Beg mercy, little worm. The dried-up walking corpses started talking in a tongue unknown to most. Their snorts and creepy voices started to scare the troopers, and Wulfur himself looked worried. Up until now, all they met were the mindless undead and the lesser draugrs, but these ones were guardians of major tombs. Not a thing to compare. Foslos Dylan, Fenne Pagol. What is dead should never walk. Men, fear the dead do not, and put them to eternal rest. John replied to the undead and talked heroically to his men. Djar Volin, die intruder, the draugr shouted and swarmed ahead. Ida, attack! John shouted some sense into his warriors with a war cry and unleashed his best sun spells, Holy Smite. A massive skirmish happened. John was at the rear casting spells nonstop, and Wulfur was pushing 3 draugrs with his tower shield alone. Each hit from those undead was akin to hammer attack from a fully empowered aura user. These undead may have long passed, but they still had an aura on their own. Still, the dead had an advantage the living always lacked, and that was they never tire. Their ceaseless attacks on Wulfur's shield proved to be troublesome, as his usual strategy of letting the opponents ring their ears on a shield, then scooping them up off the ground, was not working with these draugrs at all. Alina, too, was trying to fend the first raw warriors from the frost magic that the draugr used. Frost magic was the bane of warriors, as it would weaken them and cause them to become slow. Alina was facing all the draugr warlocks, along with Jelinar, who was faring not better. John was covering his team's shortcomings and finally decided it was the time to take it seriously. He walked forward and joined the first lane with his bare hands. Fuss Aroda. With a shout, all the draugrs were pushed back through the tunnel. Some were even destroyed by the shout. John didn't let the fallen draugrs get a chance to stand and attack them while they are down. He used the new melee magic spell that he learned from Jonrad, Fire Claw. John used it with the ashen flames to dish out the best damage he could do. It destroyed the undead like a charm, but caused a wave of heat around the tunnel. Don't falter, push forward. At that time, Wulfur got a chance to retake his breath and charge forward beside John, was in the lead alone. He used his shield as a ram and ran like a madman while waving his hammer, the champion's cudgel around. The rest of the group followed, and the clash ended with the first wave of the draugr being annihilated completely. After invading the first chamber in Kolbjorn Barrow, the Dare troopers started cleaning it from the dormant draugrs. A part of the barrow seemed to be well maintained due to the everlasting servitude of these draugrs. John and his crew opened the first bath through the second tunnel and arrived in front of an altar. On it a pair of boots was seen. This was a part of Ozadil's set that was famed for its unique enchantments in the game. Actually, they are useless even though they are unique in the game. I remade them to fit Ozadil's legend. These are ancient Nordic artifacts. Look at that ebony metalworking. Wondrous. Wulfur grabbed the boots like a madman who haven't seen a girl in ages. John was still checking for traps, but Wulfur was as airhead as ever. He started looking at the boots and checked them through and through. Everyone else sighed and started to look around the room for any more hidden traps. This was the last room in the area, and the excavation didn't go further. John flew around the walls and the ceiling with levitation to check for any hidden threats. He found a lot of albino spiders, so he killed them and harvested their eggs. John, these boots are amazing. Alina called for him. John joined up with Alina and Wulfur, who started to take turns in examining the artifact. John, as the best enchanter in the group, started to examine the enchantment, and Wolfer started explaining the idea of the metalworking. It is great and all, but I need to take away the metal parts that contain the enchantment and mount them on a new pair of boots. This leather and rags are too rotten to be used anymore. Did you figure out the enchantment? Wolfer said, yes, it is really unique. Only an enchanter who reached the apex can add 2 enchantment on an item. Also, the enchantment is too amazing to ever run out or get ruined. John said. Everyone gasped in awe. Enchanted items always needed to be recharged, even though recharging was never a problem for a mystic like John, who can transfer his magicka and recharge any item directly with soulfire. You said the owner of this barrow is called Ozidal, right? Yes, he is amazing. The set of items he left in this barrow are really legendary. Let me tell you about them while the workers clear another path. John started talking about Ozidal's genius artifacts and amazing talents and pointed out many things about the boots they acquired. Wolfer started working on dismantling the boots to mount the enchanted part on a new boot for John. A week passed by, and the excavation kept going deeper and deeper into the barrow. During all that, John kept warding his people from the evil presence in the mine by using the influence of the Skull of Corruption, and it ironically worked. This evil artifacts can't just cause harm, but also push away lesser evil. The barrow was gigantic, as if a whole city was down there. The number of clashes with the undead draugrs and solving all these traps and deadly puzzles in the ancient tomb turned the dare troopers and mages from Greenhorns into true warmongers who do not fear the dead anymore. They pushed forward through it all with John and his crew till the final chamber of the barrow. During this excavation, John and his team gathered a total of 6 artifacts and a lot of other magical weapons and treasures that would worth tons of coins in the outside world. These artifacts were Ozidal's boots of water striding that allow the wearer to walk on water and become faster. Ozidal's fist of magic negation that allow the wearer to deal stronger attacks and negate magic. Ozidal's armor of retribution that would reflect some of the damage and paralyze some of the opponents. Ozidal's helm of true vision that would make magic casting and archery reach further while adding a homing effect on any projectile, physical or magical. Ozidal's ring of arcane that allows the user to store 2 spells in it, allowing any other user after that to use these spells without learning them. Ozidal's ring of necromancy that empowered all the spells that deal with the undead and trap all the souls killed by the user. These artifacts were all amazing treasures that anyone would lust for, but there were more. Wearing any 4 items of the set would allow the wearer to tap into some of the secret knowledge of Ozidal in enchanting, and John wouldn't let that hidden effect slip out of his hands. John gave Ozidal's armor of retribution to Wolfer, who really needed some new armor, and Ozidal's ring of arcane to Jelliner, who knew few spells compared to the rest of the crew. The rest of the items were all claimed by John and were all left for Wolfer to work on and replace their rotten rags and leather. Now, John and his crew were in front of the last chamber where an ancient and a very powerful dragon priest known as Ozidal lay dormant. By opening that door, they'll be facing something completely new. Chapter 230, The Tale of Ozidal. Extra chapter. Extra chapter. Every plus $10 patron or PayPal. Extra chapter. 8,000 votes. Once upon a time, long ago, way before the era known to be First Merethic Era, lived a man, a Nord whose name history has forgotten, or erased, or became forbidden. No one knows. No one lived till the day to know. Maybe some did, but who would know? Looking after names in this story is not that useful anyway, so let's keep going with the story. Like all Nords, he was a Northman that came from Skyrim. He came from Sarthel from Old Winterhold, and no need for me to tell you about Sarthel or Winterhold, the first city and kingdom of mankind on Tamriel, the home of Isgramor himself. In his years as a boy, he showed talent to the clever craft, to magic, a talent good enough to make his tutors be all in awe. As he became an adult, there was no one to teach him more in Sarthel. The path of magic was the highest honor to Nords back then, and he had to leave his wife and child to learn the elven masters. A year became 2, and 2 became 3. Finally, the road led him back to Sarthal after the events of the Night of Tears. What he found was the city in ashes. Ashes upon ashes upon ashes. It was madness. It was grief. It was what bring men to their knees and make tears flow rivers from their eyes. A heart broken. A home burned. A wife slaughtered. A child beheaded. Tell me, what can a man do with all that? And what would all that do to a man? Simply a man can exist no more. A man can only be broken after losing everything. No honor to stand for. No love to cling on. No mercy to spare. Yes, no mercy to spare. The man walked among the ashes and stumbled upon a mask. It was the mask of the old priest of Sarthal. The man looked down at the mask, and the mask looked back at him. Amidst the ashes of Sarthal, and in the middle of all that destruction, madness was born. One man knelt down. He put away his shame and pain, but above all he put away his name. He then picked up something all new and became someone else, became something else. Who have knelt down as a man, rose up as Azadal, the bitter destroyer. Amid the ashes, in the smoldering ruins of his home, he swore an oath, a terrible but mighty oath. He swore vengeance against all the snow elves. Those who sacked Sarthal and those who did not. None shall survive the wrath of Azadal. But he knew the limits of his prowess and knew how strong the snow elves are. He was no pushover. He alone can do nothing, but what a thing can Azadal do better other than collecting knowledge and casting magic? He walked out of Sarthal one man against the world with a mask, a cane, and the shade of 1,000 ghosts haunting his nightmares. He walked the land and met the dwarves of the deep. He talked to them and learned what they teach. He learned the 7 natures of metal and how to harmonize them. He walked the land and met the Aeliad, heartland elves of Cyrodiil. He talked to them and learned what they teach. He learned the ancient runes and the dawn magic even the elves had begun to forget. He walked the land and met the Chimer, changed ones, of Morrowind. He talked to them and learned what they teach. He learned the ways of the fire and the flames and was labeled a genius. He walked the land and met the Famr, snow elves of the north. He talked to them and learned what they teach. He learned their code and their secret languages to understand what great knowledge they hid. He walked the land and met the Altmare, high elves of Somerset. He talked to them and learned what they teach. He learned the Elder Way and how to handle magic to its truest potential. With that, he gathered all that he can learn from the elves, all while plotting how he might turn that knowledge against them. Still, he was alone. But not for long as word came that Ysgramor landed north of Skyrim with his 500 companions newly arrived from Atmara to avenge Sarthal, and that's all Azadal needed. For 3 days and nights, he rode north. He met Ysgramor and his men as they made landfall on the icy coast near the ruins of Sarthal, witnessing the grand event of the return. When Azadal arrived, he saw Ysgramor riding on a storm Atronach bear, holding the Wuthrad on his shoulder, killing 100 beasts to make a funeral. Ysgramor and the companions were mourning as one of the ships didn't arrive and was destroyed in the storm of separation. That ship was under the command of Ysgramor's oldest son, Ingall. Here where Azadal became a priceless asset to the Atmarans. You see, Ingall, son of Ysgramor, was a cunning commander and a great leader with great potential. He also was the greatest blacksmith of all the companions, and he forged Wuthrad from the tears of Ysgramor, if you want to believe that. Now it was the time for Azadal to shine. He offered his services to King Ysgramor and promised all he had produced in his years of labor. The Snow Elves fortified themselves on the ruins of Sarthal, but with the Atmaran steel imbued with Azadal's enchantments. The Snow Elves were no match for the companions. With that, the oath of the bitter destroyer was fulfilled. Yet, in his lust for vengeance and power, Azadal became ever more corrupted, and he eventually fell to madness and became obsessed with enchanting and knowledge more and more. His craft had become his life, and his hunger for knowledge still gnawed at him, driving him to delve ever deeper. At long last, he exhausted the lore of the elves, but it was not enough. He couldn't find more to quench his thirst but the most sacred runes of them all, the dragon runes. At that time, the Atmarans and the Nords worshipped the dragons, and pursuing the path was not that hard. Men haven't learned the Thursday yet, and there were no graybeards or anything of the sort. Eventually, Ozadil's path led him to the dragon cult, and he won himself a seat among their high priests. Still, it was not enough. And at length, he turned his gaze to the plains of oblivion and found there both power and madness, at which point he subsequently caught the attention of the Daedric Prince of Knowledge and Fate, Hermias Mora. He later became a follower of Mirek and fled to Solstheim only to be sealed away by the dragon cult within the depths of Kolbjorn Barrow together with the last of his relics. And the once great human became forgotten by history. Well, was that all? Of course not. Ozadil still had one last role to play, but let's come to that later. The life as a sealed-away dragon priest was probably not what Ozadil signed up for. He hungered for power to the point he became a dragon priest, and that kind of priest is not what one want to be a long-life friend with. You see, in exchange for servitude, dragon priests were granted immortality by their dragon master. As timeless as they are, dragons for sure can make one immortal, as they are beings of time and the children of Akatosh, the dragon god of time. So to speak, being sealed with the effect of immortality probably sucks. Ozadil became a husk of what he used to be, especially after the Dragon Wars, where all the dragon cult got wiped out from the face of Nirn. All the dragon priests, including Ozadil, were facing mutual problems like dried-up skin and their clothes turning to rags, but also a considerable amount of power above all that. And the routine, just thinking of it, is sickening. Every day, a different set of Draugr would awaken, shamble their way to the sarcophagus of the priest, and prostrate themselves before it. Several hours of this, followed by a meticulous cleaning of the area. Every day, over and over again. Put that aside for now. Ozadil was facing a serious problem with leakage lately, as it seemed that a lot of ash was leaking from the surface, and under his seal, he could only move his Draugrs around. But today was different. It was a joyous day, as some fools managed to break through the tomb and reach the sealing chamber. Ozadil lost the track of time for how many years he was sealed, but it wouldn't be a problem for long. As soon as these greedy mortals come in, he will gain control over one of them and command him to kill the others, making a blood sacrifice to undo the seal. Just as they went in, a strong magical interference blocked his illusions from affecting them. It was troublesome, but given enough time, he would be able to do so. These mortals were too busy looking around for treasures, it seems. He really tried to gain control over and over, but for some reason, that staff in the hand of the red-haired man was blocking all illusions. A unique kind of artifact, it seemed. More to that, the red-haired man stood near the sealing circle in the middle of the room. By the right of birth, I remove the seal. The man spoke these words in the dragon tongue, cut his own finger to let a drop of blood fall on the sealing circle. Ozadil was not capable of mocking or laughing, but to say such laughable words like right of birth. Only Mirek has that right. Strange enough, the runes around the circle lit up in red and the room started to shake. John gave the sign to retreat, and everyone into formation. A red pillar of light shone above the center of the sealing circle, and a strong magicka was released. Ozadil felt that the power of the seal was removed, and finally he could go free. He rose through the air with his power and broke out of the old shackles that kept him a prisoner for many years. As he went out, a strong roar came from deep within, and then a strong shock wave came out with it. He looked down on John on his companions with the intention of claiming their petty souls to regain his power. In front of him was John carrying both the staff of Sheogorath and the skull of corruption, Wulfur carrying a hammer and a shield, Alina wielding a sword in a hand and a sun spell on the other, Jelinar with a spear in a hand and a buckler in the other, Bjorna with the greatsword Stormfang in her hands, and finally Nefertiti, who expanded to her beast form. Ozadil wasn't impressed, and then waved his hands to fly higher in the room, and sealed its door too. Then all the Draugr in the room started pushing the covers of their sarcophaguses and walked out to surround John and his crew. John sneered and waved his two staves at the same time, conjuring many undead in a remarkably short amount of time. The void started distorting all around the room, and they heavily armored wraithmen started appearing from everywhere. Now that John is an expert mage in mysticism, destruction, and conjuration, he was having no trouble summoning a big number of those undead minions at once. Ozadil seemed offended and cast a flame cloak spell around himself, then aimed his first attack at John. "Don't look down on me." John reacted to Ozadil and decided to go with flame spells too. Two bright flames appeared atop his staves, and he fired at Ozadil while taking the lead. Janra and Jelinar started eliminating the undead on the Draugrs on the left, while Wulfur and Nefertiti took the left, and Alina took the rear, supporting with healing, wards, and sun spells. John was on the lead, as usual, and Ozadil started restoring to him. They both started to dish out generously spells at each other, not caring for their magicka at all. A fireball followed another, and both cast wards to fend off the attacks. A Draugr broke through the defense formation of John's undead, but John simply intercepted it with a forward kick, destroying its skull. John was also using the ashen flames to confront Ozadil. These flames were higher in quality to the flame magic used by Ozadil, but the magic of the Dragon Priest was still powerful. In this confrontation of magicka, one of the two has to fall short and run from magicka first, and that was John. The Dragon Priest had a very incredible energy line that was mostly connected with an outer realm. Ozadil's power of regaining magicka has far surpassed John. Still, John wasn't scared. He would be scared if that fight happened more than a week ago, but today it was still manageable. All-Maker. John shouted the prayer to the All-Maker, and a blue light involved him like a glowing pulp. Magicka from all over the place started to gather towards his direction at a fast pace, putting him back to full magicka, and still kept going. Ozadil was not in his best conditions, but John's sudden empowerment made him feel a bit pressured. He cast a ward to fend off John for now, and started raising the fallen Draugr to fight for him once again. Alina. On it. It was Alina's turn to confront Ozadil, and she started a race against him to raise more undead. She was in all aspects weaker than Ozadil, and to every Draugr he raised, she would raise one or two at best. John wasn't standing idle as he healed himself and summoned more wraithmen at the same time. He was regaining the lost in his troops as quickly as he could and started equalizing the fight once again. The circular room was becoming more chaotic, with undead fighting each other here and there, and bone fragments were flying everywhere. God damn it, there are too many of them. Hold still. The circle around John was growing lesser and lesser, as the Draugr in this room were all the strongest servants of Ozadil, and he himself was fighting alongside them. The wraithmen were being destroyed faster than anticipated. Alina. A bit more. Alina raising the undead on the enemy's team made it a bit chaotic, but still, it was fruitless to fight that horde under Ozadil's command. Done, Alina said, and threw the staff in her hand toward John, who threw the staff of Sheogorath towards her, and a wide grin appeared on their faces. He commanded all the undead that Alina rose to attack Ozadil all at once without caring about the other Draugrs. A total of 11 Draugrs followed John's commands and jumped at Ozadil, who wasn't even going to consider any attacks of such small fries, but he didn't have to be worried of them. He had to be worried of what John cast just now. John aimed at the 11 Draugr. He commanded and cast Corpse Explosion. This was by no means an ordinary spell. Turning a corpse into a bomb meant turning it into something as powerful as a frag grenade, let alone 11 of them. Now, Alina and John cast telekinesis. One each hand grabbed their 4 teammates away from the front where the explosion was about to take place, and boom! A shattering feeling was felt through the room as the Draugrs around Ozadil exploded and dust covered all over the place. A few seconds later, the dust settled to uncover an unexpected scene. John falling his knees with many wounds on his body. Behind him was not Alina, but Ozadil. In front of him was his whole crew that seemed to not be harmed. It was not Ozidal's doing actually, it was John who turned around. A few seconds ago, when John detonated the Draugrs, he had to pull Wulfur and Nefertiti, then cast a spell to block the explosion shockwave, but his timing was off. He had to block it with his back. As that was John's state, then Ozidal's was far worse. A hand was lost, and it lost all of its Draugrs. John really made a cunning move, but it had to cost him a bit. "Jo Jorna." John called for Jorna, and she woke up from her shock. "All-Maker." She prayed to the All-Maker, and her ability, Waters of Life, was activated. All her allies around her were healed in a few seconds. As his body was healing, the bone fragments started to fall from John's exposed skin. He was lucky that Savior's hide armor was really good against magic. "You fucking idiot!" Wulfur was enraged, but he knew better not to lose his focus from the enemy. John smiled wryly and didn't reply. Ozidal seemed to have been weakened greatly, but the power of the explosion has simply made its goal. The Dragon Priest was having problems channeling its magicka even to his intact hand. John looked at Ozidal and puffed, cleared his voice. "Why well, Tur Shul. Fire, Inferno, Sun." Chapter 231. Rewards of Coldjorn Barrow. Extra chapter. Every plus $10 patron or PayPal. Extra chapter. 8,000 votes. John ended the misery of the ancient dragon priest with a fire breath shout. Knowing the story of such a man, John didn't want to disrespect the body of once a great man and stored it in a casket, then put it away in his haven ring. John looted only one thing from Ozidal's body, and that was his mask. The mask of the dragon priest is simply something that was enchanted by the dragons themselves, and the mask of Ozidal was one of the best, and the reason why John came all the way down here. Wulfur didn't reply and looked away. "Come on, man." John looked at the people around him, but it seemed that everyone was still agitated of what he did. John sighed and shook his head. "Fine, I'm sorry for acting recklessly just now. Sorry." Wulfur turned around while glaring at John. He walked to John and pushed him away with anger. "You fucking asshole. You almost killed yourself." Wulfur calmed down. Jorna talked. "Calm? How can I be calm? Does this idiot even care for his life at all? Does he?" "Wulfur!" Jorna shouted. "Wulfur is right. I am sorry. I know you were the shield bearer of the team, and I shouldn't have taken your position, and I harmed myself while not being fully armored. I am truly sorry." John said in complete honesty, and Wulfur backed down while being still upset. The atmosphere turned heavy and awkward at the same time. "Why did you bring us here, John? What are you really after?" Wulfur spoke. He seemed to be a little upset. Even though they used their ability to get through the tomb all the way here, and John kept talking about dragon priests and how powerful they are, the group around John is used to not take him really seriously when the word dragon is mentioned, so they were mostly expecting a more powerful Draugr. Still, it was an overpowered flying shooting one. They still don't have the concept of the dungeon boss in their heads like John, so they naturally felt upset after the fight was over. John, as the eldest one between them, understood them and talked with sense. "First, this is a dragon priest mask. I always told you the story about it being enchanted by dragons and whatnot. Whatever the legends are, it doesn't change that every dragon priest has an immensely powerful mask. Here, Alina, check it out." John handed the mask to Alina, who started looking at it left and right. The craftsmanship is indeed fascinating, and the enchantment is... Alina paused, then looked at John. "Kai!" she exclaimed. All who were in the room got interested after Alina showed the expressions of bewilderment. This mask can resist half the damage of any flame while empowering the flame magic to 1/4 its original power. Indeed, John confirmed, the Mask of Ozidal was an absolute artifact of fire magic that was crazier than any other thing they discovered in the tomb. Ozidal, 50% resist fire. Fire spells do 25% more damage. "Do you know what does that mean?" John asked his crew again. They were all pausing, but the one who caught up first was Jorna. "My God!" she exclaimed. Are you saying that if any firemain put on that mask, they will? Exactly, John confirmed. They will be unburnable. Silence took over. The firemen are known to have one of the strongest bloodlines in Skyrim, and the reason was very simple. They're the descendants of Clan Titanborn that the famous Lyris Titanborn hailed from. Clan Titanborn of Winterhold has merged itself with Clan Flamehair that the famous Joran, the Skald King, Queen of Windhelm, hailed from. These two immensely strong bloodlines boosted the ability and the lifespan of the firemen, making them take half the damage from any flame. Lyris Titanborn is one of the 5 companions from the main quest in ESO. Joran the Skald King is the leader of the Ebonheart Pact and High King of Skyrim at ESO. Now back to the mask. It means if John wears the mask right now, he will have 100% fire resistance, which means immunity. Gods, Alina said. Fire or whatever. John can be unburnable with that mask. Oh, and it gets better, John said. There are 2 more dragon priest masks like those, one for frost magic, one for shock magic. You've got to be... Of course we need to kill the dragon priests wearing them. John said fast. Kidding me, sigh. Wolfer finished. It meant not only having 100% fire resistance, but also 100% frost resistance. Nords, after all, can resist half of all frost damage. But of course, after seeing John's bloody figure a few minutes ago, they all got cold feet. John always pushed forward and made sure that everyone is unharmed, but this is a cruel world, and they almost experienced something not many adventurers came out alive. I say we go after them. Jelinar said. What? Almost everyone was surprised. I trust John. There's a reason why he is so going after those masks like that, and I assure you it is a good one. John wants us to be stronger. That's all. We may face tragedies and whatever, but you guys keep boasting around all the time for what? You should be ashamed of not standing up alongside John when he needs us. Jelinar's words were a bit harsh and made everyone silent. Look, I'm not trying to be rude, but I must remind you that we did rebuild Winterhold, and we faced pirates and fought against many foes together. Yes, we were mostly safe and protected, but until when? John always said that we will be the front line one day, and make no mistake, this day is upon us. If we don't get roughed up and shed some blood, we will be children forever. I wouldn't love to see any one of you hurt, and I would take a dagger for anyone here, but still, guys, you need to harden it up a bit more. Jelinar said some cool words that made everyone look down and smile wryly. They have shared the same emotions as her, but were not as bold. Jelinar grew up in the harshest environment possible, and her life only became better when she was taken by John. She may be crazy, but she still had the strongest mentality around here. More to that, she saw a dragon and passed the horrific experience with flying colors. The cool head she has was not from nothing. How mature, Jorna said. Never thought I would hear those words from you, thanks. Wolfer said. Yeah, she can be so cool. Alina said. As the atmosphere started to get warmer, John decided to pour the cold bucket. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but you were a little too early to relax. What? Why are you looking at me like that? Everyone looked at him with cold eyes. Bad Human. Seriously, John. You had me go through all that speech, and now you ruin it. Jelinar was upset. Okay. I will be quick and cause no drama. John said. He took out a strange dwarven metal chest from his haven ring. The first one to react was Wolfer. Why are you taking that out? He asked. What is that? Alina asked. It is a containment chest. I forged some of them as John requested to have a very strong lock and inner build. John enchanted them with some crazy enchantment to block energies from inside. It is designed to keep what is outside safe from what is inside. He uses one for the Skull of Corruption to not cause nightmares in Winterhold. Exactly as Wolfer said. John confirmed and carried the chest to the other end of the room. There was a door. He opened it, and what appeared behind it was something bizarre. What is that place? It smells. They all went after John and saw a strange room. It was like passing through different architectural styles through one door. On one side, it was ancient Nordic, and on the other it was greenish with a strong, acidic smell and dangerous feeling. Home and bat. Nefertiti herself was agitated by the started to meow with hostility. Alina noticed and figured it out. Is something Daedric in that room? Yes, look at the center. John said. In the center of that circular room, there was an altar with a large book on it. John stepped in and walked on the floor that looked like a net over a strange green pool of poison and a lot of scary images on the walls. In the other side, there was a statue of a large slug with tentacles, pincers, and a lot of eyes. It was so lifelike and had a wretched aura around it. John put the chest on the floor and took out 2 pairs of dwarven gloves. He handed one for Wulfur and opened the chest. We do this nice and slow, John said, and walked toward the altar with a book on it. What is that? Wulfur asked. The less you know, the better, John said as he approached the black book and pointed to Wulfur to hold it up. As Wulfur did, John took out a chain and started wrapping it around the book to put a few locks on it. They all seemed enchanted with anti-magic runes. They then placed the book in the chest and closed it. Just as they did so, the chest started to jump around left and right as if a beast trapped inside was trying to break free. Hee, what feisty fellow. John laughed and stored the chest in his ring. John rallied the group to leave the scary room and return back to Ozidal's sealing room, then closed the door. That was? Jellinar asked. A black book, John said. Yeah, we got it from the appearance. What was it? Well, it is a Daedric artifact, as you all guess. Its use is not much different from the Elder Scrolls. The what? John wasn't sure how their shout overlapped, but he understood their surprise. What he didn't understand was why he got pushed to a wall with everyone tightening the space around him with scary eyes. Ehium, the Elder Scrolls. John spoke in a low tone. Yeah, we heard you the first time. Explain. Wulfur said. You see, black books are Daedric artifacts created by Hermias Mora, the Daedric prince of fate and knowledge. Each book contains some manner of forbidden knowledge. Some books are from the ancient past, some are from the future. The thick tomes are bound in black covers, with a symbol representing Mora on the front, and amid a black mist, as you all saw. Through the reading of the black books, individuals can obtain long-forgotten powers that were not seen in centuries. The books were spread across Tamriel by Mora, and are usually located in the depths of ancient dungeons. John spilled the beans as fast as he could. Yeah, keep going, Alina said. Through reading a black book, the reader will enter Apocrypha, the realm of oblivion created and ruled over by Hermias Mora, much like Quagmire, and how we went through it with Vermina. Tentacles will emerge from the tome and envelop the reader. Most mortals who read a black book are driven insane, but those who successfully journey through Apocrypha are known to discover powerful knowledge. How delightful. What were you trying to do with a black book? Jellinar said. Well, I am too weak to read one right now, so I was planning to keep it away from other fellow mortals. You mentioned several black books, right? Yes, each dragon priest on Solstheim was given one. So you were looking for 3. 7 actually, but we will do with 3 for now. Wulfur and the rest looked at each other with tired expressions on their faces. You know what? I take back all what I said before. This dolt is going to get himself killed for sure. Jellinar took her stuff and walked away. They all left, and the only one who remained was Nefertiti. You are not angry with me, Nefertiti? John squatted down in front of her and asked. No. Oh, you are an angel. I am hungry. Okay, I'll give you all the fish in the world. John carried Nefertiti and went after his crew. The Dare Dragon group started cleaning the tomb of Ozidal and sorted out all the treasure from inside. Wulfur managed to find a lot of ebony armor pieces that were preserved in perfect condition all these years, and he decided to fix the Ozidal artifacts on some of them. As Wulfur got busy with the forge that was built for him in Fort Frostmoth, John stayed in Coldjorn Barrow and sealed the room of the Black Book. He also made sure to not let anything go out of his calculations. One more thing he was interested in was the word wall in the barrow. A lot of ancient Nordic ruins had them, and John was interested in the words of power on them. Normally, a certain word would inspire him to learn a new shout. This time he was learning the cyclone shout and the word nas, which meant strike. The word stone said, Ketsagal Varukiv Hron Mir, Fin. Krent Wosov Pa, OK, Iruvos RK. Farayan Wanas Tum, Krivan. Du OK Zama. Translation. This stone commemorates Hrodmer the broken who spent all his years and wealth to strike down the murderer of his brother. After 2 days of work, the Kolbjorn Barrow was sealed, and with it the first phase of John's plan in Solstheim. Chapter 232, Full Moon's Night. Hun calls you our Ilka Sebastian. We'll sing your name as Sovngarde and publish an extra in your honor. I also posted an auxiliary chapter under the name The World Explained Creation. Do check it out. A bunch of ebony gear, a powerful dragon priest mask, Ozidal's artifacts, a new word of power, many ancient treasures, a black book of forbidden knowledge. I would say we hit the jackpot till it got swollen. But I dare dally not, as my plan was still being brewed, and we spend almost half of our time in digging up an ancient tomb. Yesterday, House Redorn's government in Raven Rock summoned me and agreed to a business partnership. They seem to have sent a word to the main house in Blacklight City, in mainland Morrowind, and received the green light. Now we have kicked another worry away. I boldly requested the ruins of Fort Frostmoth, and Councillor Morvain agreed to my terms in return that the Reed Duran Guards will occupy the fort as its security detail and whatnot. I couldn't argue, of course, as an outlander like myself can't just pop up and request the fort for himself. We are only using the pier as our dock and the empty space as our storehouse. We managed to also make a small office in Raven Rock for our personnel to settle and make do business. With all said and done, I acted sassily and requested to extend my visit to Raven Rock, claiming that it is my first time out of Skyrim. Blah, blah, blah. And the land is fascinating. Blah, blah, blah. Well, you just can imagine me being boldly rude and taking advantage of people with thick skin. Riften is still within me, I would say. Anyway, Wolfer, the greatest blacksmith I know, managed to put Ozidal's artifacts on the ebony gear that we acquired. I know carry some good artifacts on me and can walk proudly with them. System, show me how cool I am. Staff, skull of corruption. Dream steel, waking nightmares, agony. Staff, staff of Shiagarath bind, paralyzed. Head, Ozidal's helm, far sight, homing effect. Armor, Savior's hide, 35% magic and poison resistance. Gauntlets, Ozidal's ebony fists, 25% physical damage, 25% magic resistance. Boots, Ozidal's ebony striders, water walking, 15% speed. Cloak, fancy Azure College robe, 150% MP regen. Ring, Ozidal's ring of necromancy, plus 25% stronger undead, soul trap. Ring, Haven Cube, subspace. Ring, Nurina's gold ring, 200% MP regen. Goddamn, I love it. Savior's hide is made from black fur, so it went really well with the ebony boots and gauntlets. The helm was the only part that resembled its original appearance from the game, but it was good and covered my head really well. It also was horned and looked really cool. My old gear was mostly enchanted by me, and it was not armored really well, so with that I feel like I'm back to business again. Due to my physical size, and I am a bit of hulkling, so I really fit with heavy armors, and it doesn't annoy me that much. What I lack is a good weapon, and I know just where to find one, but let's keep that for later. Anyway, we initiated Phase 2 of the plan of making Solstheim great again, and what possibly can go wrong. Last time, there was an ash storm. This handsome young man shouted it back to the devil's anus. Truly, these ash storms make you feel like Molag Bal is farting. Anyway, back to Phase 2. This time I'm going to the north with my crew and some men to explore the old caves up north. Before I go, I made some of the men go around the coast and ask about some items known as the resonant stones just to hasten things up. It will be needed for Phase 3. With that out of the way, we departed to the north and decided to make camp in the wild at nightfall, just for the sake of fun. Wolf was tired of working, so he just decided to go have a swim with Jorna in the nearby lake. I gave him an energy training scroll that had the basics of the meditative cultivation and the dual cultivation, then left him with a wink. Alina and Jeliner were having a girls' discussion, so I decided to go on a hunt with Nefertiti. "What's with you these days?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. Actually, she was acting strangely. She kept her human form up for a long time, and she also is having a weird change of attitude. I would always appreciate a black-haired lowly with cat ears and tail, but something was off. I could feel it. What is stranger was that she started to use shadow magic a lot, which is also not that usual for her. She is normally lazy and would sleep a lot, but now she possesses my shadow by sinking in it and saying that she had a nap in my shadow. She once slept on my lap in her human form too. I don't hate it at all, but something is really off with her lately. This morning I checked her teeth and made her eat some medicine, but it didn't change anything. She is less cheerful and a bit moody too. I had to keep the Haven Cube with her so that it would cheer her up, and it worked for a while. Sigh. Being a cat father is so worrisome when the cat isn't acting like her usual. Maybe the weather is bothering her, or I don't know. I need to ask someone with more experience than me. Augur, no idea. Shadow, sorry. A couple of creepy incorporeal dudes haunting me can't figure out a cat. I think the problem is that she has changed. Shadow said. I am listening. She was just a normal animal. When you picked her up, you took her on your journeys, you rode skies, met a dragon. She became a beast, went into a Daedric realm together. I am not expert about animals, but something happened along those lines, and she became a cat no more. You really are asking to be banned. No, she's a cat, but she became more. A magical creature or spirit cat. I am bound into your mind realm, so all I can do is make guesses. Well, all cats are magical creatures, but you may have a point. She indeed gained more intelligence and transcended the normal limits of a cat. I wouldn't say transcended. Whatever suits your fancy. She may be mantling the great cat goddess as we speak. I'm out of here. TSK, puppy-loving heathen. I cut the transmission with Shadow and started thinking about it seriously. I still guess I need to observe more. Nefertiti, where are you? I looked around and didn't find her. Once I tried to track the Magicom mark I left on her, I got her signal forward. She was moving fast in weird pattern, or that was a fight. I cast levitation and flew forward right away. A large black cat was hissing while moving in circles in front of another beast. That beast had unusually long limbs and claws with a big head and gray fur. It was a werewolf. The werewolf howled at Nefertiti, but he got hissed at. Nefertiti's presence seemed to be a lot stronger and provoked the werewolf greatly. He took the initiative to attack and charged at Nefertiti with its claws slashing at her. Nefertiti turned into a bolt of shadow and disappeared from the werewolf's sight in a second. She then appeared over him and slashed his back with her claws. Woo! The werewolf got set flying to a tree's trunk, and its back seemed to be injured badly. Even with the injury, the werewolf got back on its feet and stood on its legs, then howled to the sky. Nefertiti was provoked by the howl, but she didn't charge. She stood on her rear legs too, and something bizarre started to happen. Her limbs started to extend more, and her head started to be larger. She was still smaller than the werewolf, but rather than just a larger cat form, she became much larger, and her paws became hands with long and sharp claws. Her general appearance resembled a Suthe Kajiat with their lean limbs and slender figures. Her tail, however, became taller. Her fur started to become taller on her back and her tail and her ears became a bit larger. John, who appeared later in the sky, witnessed that transformation at first hand and became amazed. He was noticing Nefertiti's change of behavior, but he never thought that she was still growing as beast from the inside. He looked at the sky at the moons and noticed the 2 full moons in the sky. Sigh, I should watch over her then. John kept silent and started looking at the fight once again. He had to make sure that Nefertiti doesn't get harmed, but he still had to leave her to grow up more. Nefertiti was done transforming, and her height was fixed at a few centimeters shorter than the werewolf. This was a full-fledged werewolf. https:// IBB. Co/8XCL6PD. You can imagine it that way. Her blue eyes shone in the dark, and a wave of strong anger started to manifest from her eyes. The werewolf was threatened and charged with all the power at hand, but Nefertiti disappeared once again. She was not above him this time. She was below him, and thorns made of shadow magic started to appear on her back like a hedgehog. Once she was right at the position she wanted, she launched those spikes at the werewolf above her. The werewolf felt a crazy amount of pain, all the thorns that attacked its front and back. It was an agonizing pain and started whining as soon as it fell on the ground. Nefertiti came above the badly wounded werewolf and waved her claws at its neck, ending its life. Nefertiti started devouring the flesh of the werewolf. She started feeding on it, but it was not really to her taste, yet John didn't stop her at all. A wer-beast needs energy to prolong their transformation. He knew that she was in berserk state right now. She would attack anyone on sight, and that would be a problem. John took the Skull of Corruption and cast the staff's ability, waking nightmares at Nefertiti. Not far from here, another wercat with a similar appearance manifested from the void. Let's see how good you are, John thought, and commanded Nefertiti's image to taunt her. Once Nefertiti heard the hiss of a beast similar to her, she was clearly in the mood to fight once again. She let the body of the werewolf and focused on the new guest. The fake Nefertiti took another command from John and turned around to run away. The original Nefertiti was completely provoked and gave a chase. The mastermind John was still floating above the trees while witnessing the two beasts and their amazing speed. He was commanding them to a destination where they can have a fight, but as he was in the sky, he noticed a place and sensed some life auras from inside. Frostmoon Cave? I almost forgot. A pack of werewolves that worship do live there? I wonder. John commanded the fake Nefertiti to the cave and landed down to witness how will this unfold. Chapter 233, The Wercat. This extra comes to you by the good graces of Ilka Sebastian. Frostmoon Crag was not a large cave, but it was where a band of hunters lived. These hunters were all werewolves, and this was a full moon night, so it was natural for all werewolves to be in their beast form at that time of the month. A few minutes ago, these werewolves felt a strange presence in their territory, and they all gathered back at their meeting spot. Unease in the air, the smell of blood, and the strange sound of the beast in front of them. It was just like them, a wer-beast, but of origins and appearance they're not aware of. Nevertheless, it was an enemy. Wer-beasts are not friendly with each other, even though they are all the follower of Herson, the Daedric prince of the hunt. They just learned the hard lesson by the wer-bears when they kicked them of their home and killed their old pack. Now, a new threat appeared in a vicious-looking wer-beast that looked like a wercat. It was funny as there was no such thing as wercats. Only wer-lions existed, and these were the Khajiit that were blessed by Herson. The pack can communicate with their thoughts, just like how Nefertiti and John communicate. They decided that this one beast is really dangerous to challenge alone. They had to hunt it together. The leader of the pack, Majni, was in the center, with the two females, Jordies and Rakel, at his sides, and his brother Akar at the back. There were other hunters in the den, but they all ran to the back holding their bows up. Nefertiti was still mad at the mirror image of hers that she chased all the way here to no point but to meet 3 more foes. She wasn't in the right mind to make a strategy or be careful. All she wanted to do is to fight. The 4 werewolves roared at her, but she didn't faze, and her tail stood up with many shadow thorns manifesting on it. She waved her tail left and right, and the thorns started flying around like arrows. The 4 werewolves moved faster than the other one she killed outside the crag. The move to different locations to avoid the valley of thorns then started at Nefertiti from 4 different sides. Nefertiti mindlessly picked the closest one to her and charged with all her power. Majni and her slashed with their claws at each other, but it seemed that Nefertiti was going to be in danger before John would even act. Nefertiti twisted her body around itself and avoided Majni's attack completely while counterattacking with other claws at him, grazing deep into his shoulder. She didn't stand at her place and jumped high to the mountain nearby and clung on it. The other werewolves and the hunters were shocked by how fast she moved and how high she could jump. John analyzed the situation and agreed that she's a cat after all, so her instinct to move her body as much be better than that of a human in a beast form. He decided to wait more and see. Nefertiti on the cliff, she hung, looked down at her foes, and hissed at them. She was angry, and her hiss was akin to a werewolf's howl. The hunter with weak wills threw away their bows and ran away. Nefertiti let go and landed on the ground. She stared at the werewolves around her, then ran to the side following the hunters. Everyone was shocked by how mean she acted. This was clearly her first transformation in the full werewolf, so she was supposed to be berserking around, yet she made some daring move. John was going to stop her any time, but as soon as she attracted the other werewolves to go after her, she turned around in an instant and slashed at the nearest 3 werewolves. Rakel, the youngest, was injured deeply and got thrown to the side, while Jordies and Akar felt like they suffered minor injuries. The last, and the elders, Majni, managed to get behind Nefertiti and slashed at her back. Without even turning around, Majni's claws landed on Nefertiti's back as if they landed on a hard rock. Looking closely, Nefertiti has once again used shadow magic to create scale-like armor on her body. "You're a genius, girl." John was floating in the dark sky and smiling at Nefertiti's brilliance. Nefertiti didn't stay at her place. She realized that she was physically weaker than the werewolves, but she was much faster and she can use magic. She jumped away and stood on a rock far away from the werewolves. She faced them with viciousness in her eyes, and her magic started to manifest on her hands. She launched her first throwable shadow magic attack in her life in a manner that made John open his eyes wide. The shadow manifested from her hands was like a boomerang that flew, revolved around itself, and changed direction. Each time she waves her hands, shadow magic comes out. She was casting magic properly, and not by instinct like the normal creature, and more to that in the beast form. This was completely unheard of. Her shadow boomerangs targeted the other 4 werewolves who barely managed to avoid the deadly blows and hid behind cover, but it seemed that Nefertiti was going to get them soon enough. They became desperate and charged at her again all at once. At that time, John decided it was enough. He waved the skull of corruption, and a lot of runes appeared on the ground around the hunters, and Nefertiti, suddenly a web of lightning appeared from each rune and targeted the 5 were-beasts all at once. The arc of lightning wrapped itself around them and pulled them away from each other. The net of lightning was a spectacle from above and showed how domineering and powerful the mage was. John smiled and started to descend from the sky. On the ground, the were-beast saw a man in a half-sleeved azure robe on a black armor, while covering his head with a large hood that hid his face as if the void under it all that, as he was holding a staff with a skull on it. This man came down from the sky, and his appearance was great, but fearful at the same time. Nefertiti was still berserking, but once the man landed in front of her, he raised his left free hand in front of her head, and a green light came out. "Sleep." The man, whose voice was old, wise, and deep, spoke to the werewolf, and she suddenly lost all her power and fell under the effect of the spell. The man then approached her and put his hand on its head. Then the werecat's body started to change and became smaller and smaller, turning into a little girl with black hair and rosy cheeks. She was just a child who was around 7 to 8 years old and looked really adorable and peaceful. The man held the girl in his arms and carried her after wrapping her in a large piece of cloth. He then turned around and looked at the werewolves. His old, wise, and deep voice sounded again. "I'm sorry about what happened just now. This is totally my mistake. This little one was having her first full change, and she slipped away without me noticing," he said in a cool and calm way that made the werewolves feel his power and age. He kept looking at them waiting for a reply, but he noticed that it was a bit not possible. "Oh, sorry about that." He waved his staff, and the lightning runes disappeared along with the lightning arcs that bound the werewolves. With another wave of his staff, the 4 werewolves felt weaker and they started to change back to human. It took them a few seconds, but they were all back to being humans with completely no clothes on. I wonder why I had to mention that. Sorry about this again, young ones, he said. The 4 hunters were startled, but they recognized the man's power, and that was not a thing they want to ever mess with. I am this pack's leader. I go by Majni. Might I know who is the elder? One of the hunters said. The old man sneered under his hood, but he didn't show a thing. He only moved his hand and pulled his robe away from his armor, revealing it. Does this prove my identity? He asked Majni. The werewolves looked at the armor that had the design of a wolf's head on it and didn't understand what to do, but Majni reacted. A savior's hide. Majni shouted in awe. You two are a follower of the Prince of the Hunt. The man nodded slightly. But he is not a were beast. Geordie said, my role is to serve a higher purpose. Being a were beast will hinder my duties. The man said in his amazing voice. Oh, the 4 hunters were in awe once again. My little friend here has attacked one of you in the woods, and I regret to say that he did not survive. I am sorry, as it was her first time, and she was hard to track. The hunter seemed a bit sad, but Majni nodded. Poor bastard. He went insane and couldn't come back to human again. He said with sadness. The man nodded in understanding behavior, but he was sighing in relief. I will compensate you for your fallen friend. Do tell, young one, can your pack acquire any rings blessed by the prince for this little one? She's having hard lately. The man said, yes, we do have some. Majni said, and signaled to Akar, who ran to the back and recovered a bag from the deepest part in the camp. Good then, the man replied and waved his staff again. Golden light shone upon the tree hunters and healed their wounds from the fight with Nefertiti. This is a small apology, and this is my compensation for your friend and the ring. The man took out a purse of coins. He then made a cast a spell and made the purse and the bag of the rings switch places. With this, I will be leaving. The man disappeared with his voice still lingering around the space, causing the 4 hunters to shiver once again. John appeared far away from Frostmoon Crag with Nefertiti in his arms. He put away the hood and dispelled the mimic spell he cast on his voice. Morgan Freeman's voice always gets the job done. Chapter 234, Night Talk. Extra chapter, every plus $10 patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. I took Nefertiti back to our camp, carrying her in my arm. I kept checking on her the whole way to the camp and found that it has become more powerful both physically and spiritually. I don't understand the reason for that sudden growth, but I need to do more checks. What is more concerning that she was evolving mentally. While I was carrying her, she felt me close and held to my robe as if she doesn't want to let me go. I could only put her on the bed and rest beside her. Not until some time later as Nurina and Jelena returned. Where were you two? I asked them. We were looking for you, Joel said while smiling. Yes, we were feeling a bit naughty, so we tried to find you. Alina continued. I see. This is a full moon night, after all, so everyone is either horny or turning into a werbeast. Amazing. I know it is mostly my fault, but you two need to control your desires a bit. I said, don't worry, we got that covered. The two said and smiled at each other. So they did it together again. Not sure how to feel about that, though. What's wrong with her? Joel asked, pointing at Nefertiti. Well, it started like this. I started telling them what happened through the hunt with Nefertiti. This is strange. You said the essence energy in her body increased? Alina reconfirmed. Drastically. It is as if she is cultivating like us. I replied, then can't that be because of the Beastmaster ability that your family has? Not possible. It is only a mental link. To affect her like this, then it must be something like a soul link, which I am not sure if it is possible to establish it between two separate entities. Soul links is like how the augur attached his astral extension to me, and how Herson attached his astral extensions to the werbeasts. Becoming a werbeast is like having a part of Herson inside you. That is why when the werbeasts die, they end up in Hersen's realm of oblivion, the hunting ground. I'm starting to think that keeping her as a word beast is a bad idea, I said. Joel seemed sad when I said that, but Alina replied, "You have no right to say so. She enjoys being a word beast." When Alina said that, Joel and I were utterly shocked. Alina sighed and kept talking. "It is true that Kine is the mother of both men and beasts, while Hersen is the one who curses people with his therianthropy and makes them into such horrible creatures. We follower of Kine have a bad history with Hersen, yet we understand the Prince of the Hunt and his big game. For a cat like Nefertiti to surpass her limits as a beast and become a larger beast is actually not as disturbing as a man turning into a beast. I don't understand the will of the Stag Prince, but let's not do something we don't understand for now." Alina said. "She is right." Joel continued. "I feel like the cat is getting smarter day by day. We won't understand unless we wait. All I know is that this cat loves you so much, and she is a part of our family, so think carefully before you do something you might regret. Yes, and regarding Nefertiti's connection to you, I think it is deeper than whatever we may understand. She is the only one other than you who can withstand my eyes without falling to agony. It is not because of her, but that is because of you. Her link with you protects her from my eyes, as if you two are linked in a way we never saw before. I suggest if you ever have the chance to ask the Stag Prince, then do so." "You aren't worried about me from meeting up with a dated prince now?" I asked while smiling wryly. "The Stag Prince is fair. That's a given. He won't mistreat a mortal unless he was directly offended." I nodded to Alina's words and patted the sleeping Nefertiti. She may have a fate I can't figure out too. Picking her up that day may have ruined her life, but I am sure she wouldn't want to become an ordinary cat ever again. I slipped Nefertiti into my haven cube and started preparing dinner. A few minutes later, Wolf and Jorna appeared. The two of them looked a bit energetic and all smiles. "Oh no, I know that look on their faces," Alina said with a laugh. "Did you give Wolfer one of those?" Joliner asked and pointed at her training scroll. I nodded silently. Wolfer came towards me with a funny smile and sat silently while Jorna kept a poker face. These two have strong energy around them, which meant they have cultivated very well. "We never got tired." Wolfer spoke, and I laughed right away. He must have had it real good. "Hey, John, what was that scroll you gave him?" Jorna asked with an annoyed face. "It is my 2 years of hard work, something that you are lucky to experience in this lifetime. I'm not sure how to feel about it. Angry because you interfered in our private matters, or thankful because we never got tired. I am dying." I could endure it no more and laughed again. Wolfer's brain was still in someplace else. "Anyway, why do we have to mediate between every step and after the whole thing?" Jorna asked. "Well, it happens like this. You guys transfer different energies to each other and use it to nurture your own. We read the scroll." Jorna said, "The point is that the energies outside your energy center are not really belonging to your body, and eventually it returns to the world once the body dies. What you do is that you take that energy and trap it in your soul, which where your essence energy is by the meditation or what I call the cultivation. It is basically stealing the energy and making it into your essence. It will increase your life force and magicka, as well as make you get tired less often as you just experienced. We were like animals." "Shut up, Wolfer." Jorna started shouting at Wolfer, who was smiling at her with a silly face. "The guy is in love. What can I say? So by stealing that energy and storing it in our soul, we are stronger. Physically, nope. Magically, yes. And your aura also will experience a leap in power." "What does the aura have to do with any of that? Do you understand what the aura is?" Uncle Johnrad said, "It is an imitation of an ancient Akaviri art known as the battle spirit art. It is the manifestation of the warrior's will that would make him stronger and produce a certain effect related to that warrior style." Jorna replied, "That is semi-canon lore. I just called the aura to make things easier to understand. Check the Dragon Knight lore article on the wiki." "Well, it is a textbook answer, but let me explain. You see, When a necromancer dabble a lot with the dead, or a shadow mage deals with the twisted nature of the shadow magic, their personalities tend to change. You find a necromancer always walking around with a gloomy atmosphere around him and don't care too much about ethics when dealing with corpses of people, and the shadowmancer becomes twisted with a vague personality. Same goes for the paladins who carry light and the fire mages who burn things without remorse. In the end, power takes its toll on a person. This is when a person becomes immersed in that power and gain a lot of understanding about it to the point where it becomes part of his nature. Now couple that nature with raw power, that essence energy I talked about just now. I said it is in the soul or the spirit or whatever you would like to call it. The point is, once you couple that skill nature or the personality nature with that essence energy, you get your battle spirit. Its properties are to buff your physical power as a basic property and act the same way your nature does. Take Alina, for example. She is the perfect representation of the skill nature as the blessed child of Kine. Her white stormy frost aura, resulted by the constant use to frost and wind magic, is so powerful that it chills to the bone. Jellinar is the perfect representation for personality nature. She is stealthy and fierce. Her gray stealth aura buffs her speed and make her harder to notice. I see. Everyone hit their palms with their fist and spoke together. When John puts it that way, it sure has some understanding behind it now. Truly better than Uncle John Rad's vague explanation. Truth be told, I try to add something cool to the story without fully understanding it and how to explain it that way. I'm a bit sophisticated when it comes to semi-lore stuff. What about you, John? Your aura doesn't represent you at all. Yes, it is strangely a green madness aura, and you're not that good with illusion magic. Well, as you know, I am a special case. I study all schools of magic and practice martial arts with my long history of practicing the stealth arts in Rift 10. Overall, my style is a mix of my skills and personality are all about overwhelming the opponent in all aspects. I'm a bit of an S, as you can all tell. Blah, very him. Joel interrupted, but let's ignore that. I personally think that my aura needs an upgrade, but I still need to find the perfect mindset to make it better. That was really eye-opening. What will we do tomorrow then? Finally back to business. Phase 2 is about a black book hunting in Benkongarite Cave, a treasure hunt in Gildenhall Barrow, the resting place of Hackner Deathbrand, and finally White Ridge Barrow to face another powerful dragon priest and take his treasures in Black Book. After all of that is done, I would love to visit a dragon wall in the north of Solstheim. Our time limit is 1 week. I announced my grand plan right away. You know what? This guy's a sadistic fucker. Wolfer said went away. Humph. The tree girl snorted and went away too. Hey, there was that thing about. Shut up, John. Chapter 235, New Progress. Benkongarite Cave is located in the north of Solstheim, just a few miles north to the Skal village by going up the mountain. The area was rich with beauty and nature that made me pause every now and then to smell the fresh, cold air of the sea. It wasn't like as I missed, but the ashlands are really too filthy to endure. I wonder how the dark elves can do it. Anyway, this phase the plan was about us 6 only going around in Nordic ruins and getting our training done. Any numerical disadvantage will be handled by me as the best summoner of the group and will also support and also attack. Tanking is for Wolfer, scouting is for Jellinar, dealing damage is for Alina, and healing is for Bjorna. The 5 of us are a complete team when it comes to facing hordes of monsters. And this is what happened when we entered Benkongarite Cave. Reeklings attacked us from every side there is. What is a smear's name is going on here? Is this a kingdom of Reeklings? Wolfer shouted. Hee hee, the royal knights are coming at your way, Sir Wolfer. As I said that, a few rider Reeklings charged at Wolfer on their boars. On it, Wolfer waved his hammer, taking down the 3 Reekling riders and their bristlebacks in one go. Hey, John, any contribution to society? Joel asked. I'm filling the place with my undead. What more do you need? Put down Nefertiti and help us like you mean it. No, Her Meowjesty has asked for a massage. Until I am needed, I will keep on serving the princess. Nefertiti was in her normal cat form and wanted to laze on my arm since this morning. She was acting all playful and cute since she woke up. I kept stroking her back, and she was reacting nicely. "How is she today?" Joel asked. Much like a cat, actually, she does not remember all the fight of yesterday's and very happy with the rings I brought her. Also, do you notice that she have grown? She's a bit bigger. Yesterday, I brought her 4 rings with me. They were all blessed by Herson and made for were beasts. They are: Ring of Bloodlust increases the power of her intimidation growls and hisses. Ring of Instinct heightens her instincts and senses. Ring of the Hunt increases her power, speed, and durability. Ring of the Moon heals wounds faster. I tweaked the rings to become better than the game. These rings were all blessed by the stag, Prince Herson, and would benefit Nefertiti greatly. Nefertiti was very pleased with them and absorbed them in her shadow. I don't understand how or why, but she got their power. This cute little devil is getting more mysterious, but the connection between us was never the stronger. There is indeed a link beyond my understanding, the same way Alina described it. I can even sense Nefertiti's mood now. What is important now was that Nefertiti assured me that she passed the unease she was feeling and feels much better. I would take her words for it and keep loving her for a few more hours. Putting her Meowjesty aside for now, I started practicing some new spells as my undead were taking down the Reekling with the rest of the team. Yesterday, I tested a new spell on the werewolves that was called Electro Hand. It was just an original expert level. Another new spell that I learned was Mimic. Narina gave me the tome of it a long time ago, but I am not good with illusion, and it took me quite a while. The last and the coolest spell I learned was a spell called Necroconstruction, which is a spell that creates undead. Electro Hand is an original of mine, as the name gives out, a crossover between lightning magic and telekinesis, which is far more powerful and violent than both. I managed to carry a large rock with it. Its weight must be around 5 tons. Mimic is a known spell that can change the voice and slightly the appearance. I can't change my body shape, but I can change the simple things like the colors, the hair, the facial features, and maybe can make my ear pointy. Necroconstruction is a spell that hailed from the cult of worms, the worst necromancer faction in the history of this world of Tamriel. The spell itself can gather together the bones and the flesh of dead mortals and animals to create whatever the caster wants, be it a bone colossus or just a skeletal warrior, as long as the caster studied the undead creature, of course. With these 3 spells in my arsenal, I felt like a new man once again. I haven't learned a new spell in ages. Back to Benkongarite Cave. We traveled far through the icy cave and started to have troubles with the Reeklings. There were too many and chaotically organized, if you get the gist of it. They would swarm in weird synchronization and disperse when they were overwhelmed. Still, we managed to push through and reached Benkongarite Great Hall, which was a Nordic ruin behind the icy cave. In the Great Halls, there were some draugrs that took some effort to bring down until we reached the end of the halls and solved a dumb ancient Nordic puzzle to cross through the doors. Can anyone just tell me what is the point of solving these dumb puzzles? I asked loudly. Legends mention that they were created to distract the people who solve them from the traps. Luckily, we know that, and we solve them carefully. TSK. Too soft. When I die, I want you guys to make a grand tomb for me. Those who want to loot my personal 3rd versions of the lusty Argonian maid will have to go through death traps, flying traps, fire traps, walking on the sky traps, and real traps. I want you guys to recreate Diablo 2 on Hell mode, with 100 levels deep in the ground, and assign the meanest monsters to inhabit that dungeon. At the coffin room, I want a word wall that says, Lockhen Zima, which means high five bro, as I walk out as a Draugr troll the adventurers. As I finished talking, I was stared at by 5 pairs of dumb eyes. No, 4, don't count Nefertiti. Okay, they all were mostly crept out. What about you, Wolfer? How do you like your crypt to be like? Small 1 room with an orichalcum heavy door. Whoever can open the door with a hammer gets to have my personal legacy. Oh, How generous. What about you, Alina? On the top of a mountain, the closest point to Kan I can get. Can't argue with your logic. What about you, Joel? I'll go with Alina. Your place is so creepy. TSK. Bjorna? Are you guys really going along with this joke? We are in an ancient tomb, which is filled with the dead, and you all are talking about your death? I would just turn around and leave you guys. Makes sense. Yeah. Totally. With my weird fellowship. We reached the end of Benkongarite Great Hall, and there was no boss at all, just an old word wall and a passage with a familiar stench. We walked through that passage and arrived at a room similar to the Black Book room of Ozidal, and there was also a black book. We followed the same process and sealed the black book in a containment chest. After doing so, we returned to the word wall to study it. It said, Nonvol Brondamasyandar Aroti. Du fin fodiz borma kindov krif. Ok kozul vocal nuz juengar. Nian envu ok hokaron. Which meant, noble Nords, remember these words. Of a whore father, a warrior fights. His evil, but a king unleashes. On his enemy. The important word here was gar, which meant unleash. With that, I have the second and the third words of a new shout. All I need is the first, or I could just try to comprehend it on my own, which will work, but will take a month at least. These word wall contain a lot of insight after all. With that, we left out the tomb by using teleport to the outside. I may have forgotten to mention that I now can mark the space itself, so I can teleport back to it. How long did this tomb take? Almost a day. Kind of feel tired now that I mention it. White Ridge Barrow is that way. We can make camp at its entrance. We traveled 2 hours on our flame Atronak horses until we reached White Ridge Barrow. We arrived at the barrow's entrance, but didn't make a camp. I decided that we all should go in the Haven Cube. We gathered in the main space and had a meal before sending Nefertiti to bed. Wolf and I started a heated discussion in our corner, and the girls actually started to meditate. I started working with Wolfer on the Starum we acquired some time ago, and he managed to grind it, then reshape it in tubes. I took the tubes and started enchanting them to then stuff the reshaped, enchanted empty soul gem into and started to close the product. I was lacking some key material like the core of the reactor, but I think with the temperature of the Starum, I will not face any problem with the overheating ever again. My Magica reactor is a few days away from being the most promising source of power in this world, if I don't royally screw it up. While we were working, I heard a strange sound and a gust of wind moved inside the space. I looked around me to see where this wind came from, as it was strange. The cube allows air and Magica to flow in and go out, but not wind. John, I think a force wave came out of Bjorna just now. Wolfer said, Are you serious? Yes. Come, let's see. As we went towards Bjorna, she opened her eyes and looked at herself in a strange way. Did something happen to me? She asked. Yeah, one of those pulse waves that I talked about before. I said. Alina and Jeliner opened their eyes and came towards us. What is going around here? Bjorna just experienced one of those pulses waves. You still haven't figured out what it means? No, this thing was still depressing me. Hey, John. I think I have experienced that feeling before. You know, my energy center felt like something going in strongly and something coming out. Oh, you mean the Magica pool here? I see. Maybe because Bjorna is the one with the least essence energy between us, so you felt more than us. I guess when we steal that world's energy from the Magica pool and pull it to feed the essence energy in the soul, something comes out while the energy goes in. Everyone halt your training for now. Cousin, give me your hand. I bossed everyone around and contacted the augur to provide him with the update. Your thinking is indeed logical. I also looked into the previous data you sent and found that when Archmage Shalater reported that he stole the secret of immortality from Akatosh, he was being vague about it. He may have actually did the same process that you're doing right now, or something similar to it. Oh, damn. Then this pulse wave should be a good sign, right? Indeed. Keep providing me with data. Also, the conclusion that when you steal the energy of heaven and lock it into your soul as essence energy is a good of thinking. There is indeed a form of energy that comes out. Oh, What kind of energy? It is like a lower class energy compared to the energy you take in. Think of it as the profound essence energy you absorbed replaces the mortal energy. Every pulse wave means progress, and your soul is approaching a realm new to us. So, it is also a good sign. Good then. How many of those energy waves can we expecting to happen? For you, I guess you're nearing the limit and will replace all your mortal energy soon for your friends. I guess you should count how many pulses they have progressed through until now. Oh, thank you. You are really helpful. I'm doing something that serves my interests too, so don't think too much about it. Just remember to keep me posted. Oh, all right. As I cut the connection with the augur, I started exploring the soul of Jorna and compared it to mine. This should be how 3 layers of the new profound energy look like. I'm not sure how to count the mortal energy, but it is good. I have 8 layers myself. I see. I opened my eyes and held Wolfer's hands after Jorna. After some measuring, I judged him to have 5 layers. Alina was 6 layers, and Joel was 5 like Wolfer. I understand now. I started telling the group the things the augur and I understood from the stealing the secret of immortality from Akatosh, like Shalater, to the layers and all that. So it means we are advancing and getting stronger? Joel asked. As I said before, your body is becoming abundant with essence energy when you get more layer of it and condense them over each other. To answer your question, I would say that we can exert more physical energy and have increased magicka that way, but our physical strength is still around the same. Who knows, maybe after we condense enough energy in our souls, our bodies start to get stronger too. Don't forget that this soul is the energies of the body and all that is locked into the astral body, which is locked into the physical body, and both bodies are connected through the acupoints. When the soul quality reaches the limit, I am sure that the astral body will be refined enough to cause changes in the physical body. I said, and my head was getting overloaded with calculations. Damn, he's a super nerd. Jelliner mocked me. He is the best nerd in the world. Alina calmly defended me. I was being praised by the 4 as an idiotic otaku idea popped into my head. Oh, here it comes. He'll ruin the moment. Joel foresaw my idea. Totally. Even Alina switched sides. Okay, thank you, but now, this new discovery needs some classification. As a discoverer of the profound art of meditating, I would like to start putting this classification myself. You mean you would name it? Any objection? Your naming sense is terrible. Yeah, don't do it, John. Just hear me out. I am saying that we are stealing from the dragon god Akatosh, following the example of Shalater, and judging that the blessing of Akatosh is related to magicka regeneration. I would love to name this first realm of cultivation the dragon robbing stage. Like that. I am at the 8th layer of the dragon robbing realm. Alina is 6th layer, Wolfer and Joel at the 5th layer, and Jorna at the 3rd layer. That may not be bad after all. Alina said, distasteful, but whatever. And that's how we agreed to name our first realm of cultivation. The name of the first realm is made by inspiration from the Chinese novels, as you can guess. Dragon robbing is similar to qi condensation, as in both cases the cultivator robs the energy and goes against heaven. I think the Elder Scrolls world is based on the same concept, as the mortals were locked into Mundus by Lorcan and ascend by the Chim like Talos. I am not going to Talos scenario, so don't worry about the spoilers. The rest of the martial arts realms are Foundation Establishment, Core Formation, and Nascent Soul. I intend on changing the names into Nordic-style ones and will accept suggestions. Also, tell me what you think of the Qi condensation becoming the dragon robbing. I think it's neat, but I will change it based on the opinions. Chapter 236, White Ridge Spiders. A big pile of thanks to at Patrick_Schuster and at Dark Priest on PayPal. Also at Wazalek on. It's payday, an extra day, and here I thought I piled up some stock chapters to laze for a while. Also about the cultivation realm naming. I will put a vote on Discord to settle this once and for all. Extra chapter. every plus $10 patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. After getting some progress in terms of our cultivation and even naming our first realm, we went right away to the exploration of White Ridge Barrow. This place is special, and I came here for a very good reason. I'm not sure if I will ever find what I am after, but there's a good chance to do so. Just as we opened the jammed gate of the barrow, we found a very chaotic and a badly dim place. Unlike the other barrows, this barrow was already explored. Damn, this one is probably clean. Wolfer looked around and said in disappointment. Just like how I wanted it to be, I said as I cast night vision and detect. Wait, you knew the place was already explored? Alina asked. Nope, I hoped it was explored. It means the ones we are after have mostly arrived. I took the lead, and judging by how it looks, this place has been abandoned for a long time. Still, what is that smell? Joel asked. Sounds like some creature had made its nest here. Wolfer said. Not wrong, but not completely right. Look, I said and cast a few mage light orbs to the front. The whole area started getting illuminated bit by bit. The place we were in was a large hall followed the entrance. It was kind of run down, and some of its parts were destroyed, but that was very common for all Nordic ruins. The uncommon thing was the amount of the cocoons we saw. On the corner of rooms, there were lifelike cocoons that had a hint of fiery light oozing from them. They were beating like hearts and with the diameter of half a meter each. It was awfully disgusting. The place was filled with them. What in kind's name is that? Alina moved close to me and held my clothes. Her hands started to shiver. It was somewhat cute. These cocoons are webs, spider webs. Jellinger figured out. Yes, they are, and they're not friendly at all. Do not go near them, I said. Everyone started gathering tightly around me. Alina, I want you to summon the north wind. Let's crush them down in full swoop. Everyone stuck closer to Alina as I said that. This is so disgusting. I'll make her. Alina shouted, and changes started happening around us. The All-Maker blessing that Alina acquired is an AoE skill that is a really crazy storm of frost. Just as she activated it, we got trapped in the eye of the storm, and the place around us started to get messy. John, a barrier, please. On it, I cast a powerful ward around us, and all the trouble was warded off. As soon as the mini-storm ended, the rooms settled down. We witnessed what happened to the place. The cocoons were all destroyed, and the insides of them were smashed to pieces. They were, of course, albino spiders. Frost traces were on the walls and the pillars of the place, and it really seemed that some ice wraiths were wrecking the place around here. Nice job, Alina, I said as I kissed her forehead. You baby spider murderers. Jellinger was depressed when she saw the amount of the dead spiders around the area. She has a thing for spiders. Okay, back to formation. We were going straight to the inner sanctum. The crew turned back together, and we went straight to the largest hall in the ruin. After passing some traps and taking down some albino spiders, we started collecting their eggs, then proceeded forward. On the way, we found body parts and bones from many species like humans and elves who seemed to be bandits, judging by the state how they got here. There was also some explorers who seemed to have been killed here and brought here to become feed for the spiders. Some reeklings and their boars were also there. The whole place was a mess. Someone is growing spiders in here. I would normally appreciate it, but this is too much. It is actually normal. I said, What? You approve of that? No. But I'm saying that most of the researchers had to cross the lines many times to achieve success. Human trails, biological weapons, and many other disgusting things that history didn't reveal were all made by researchers who threw away their ethics to reach a new height in knowledge. Wasn't it possible? It is very possible, and was basically how my past world worked. We kept going forward until we saw something really unpleasant. A man with a spider mounted on his head was as if he is a zombie. What is that thing? I didn't reply and just cast a lightning bolt that took out the man and the spider down. That was a bandit being controlled by the spider. Being controlled, just like Remy from Ratatouille, but this time with magic. I replied, What? Don't mind me. I just wanted to say it so much. What should we do against these spiders then? Jorna asked. Don't get close and kill from afar. Use blast magic to kill as much as possible. With that plan, we went further killing mind-control bandits and spiders. I was gathering the eggs of the albino spider for later use and managed to reach a mining place in the barrow. As soon as we entered, a voice called for us. Help! You there! Help me, please! A voice of a man came from a deeper part in the mining area. I took the lead and eliminated any threat on the way until I reached the source of the voice. Oh, so he is alive. Above a wooden platform, I saw a dark elf man locked in a room-like cage with a lot of notes, food, and what looked like a study area. You there? Please help me. I beg of you. Get me out of here before she comes. The dark elf looked at us and started crying. Quickly, help him, Jorna said, and was about to go unlock the cage, but Wolfer and I stopped her at the same time. I suppose you are? Wolfer asked. I am Servos Rendas from the Mournhold. Please help me. My associate imprisoned me here. Get me out before she comes, please. We all looked at each other and felt a bit conflicted about the man. Those people controlled by spiders outside. Were you the one who did that to them? Wolfer asked. No, Sarah, sir. It is my associate who did all that. She locked me in here and made me work for her. She's behind all that. So you can control spiders? Jelliner asked. We made a discovery, but my associate became paranoid that I may turn on her and steal the research. All those fumes from the experiments must have got to her. Hee. That's why Nurina always told us to experiment out in the open, not in the deepest part of cave. I mocked him. Wait, you said the experiments turned her mentally unstable, right? Alina asked. I guess. I'm not sure. That makes you as dangerous. Please, no. I don't want to be in this place anymore. I'm not going to do anything, I promise. I know. It is the chanting voice from the deepest part of the crypt. It is what drove Merriler crazy. It can't be the experiments. I am very sane. The dark elf panicked once he thought that we would leave him here. Chanting voice. Yes, it comes from the deepest part of the crypt. We sealed the place because we were wary of any power we don't want to mess with, but Merriler, she became crazy. Yes, it made her crazy. The dark elf man kept shouting. You mean a word wall? Why would that drive anyone crazy? Jelliner asked. Word walls make some sort of sound when one approaches them. It is mostly the residual power of the Thursday that was kept in the word wall for ages, and it contains some of the profound understanding of a certain word. A dragonborn can understand these chants, and that's how I become able to learn many shouts this fast. Word walls? You know what that chanting is? The dark elf was taken aback. Yeah, we have someone who is an expert on that sort of thing here. They all pointed at me. The dark elf named Servos looked at me and became curious. May I ask, what sort of power is that? He asked. Why would I tell you that? Truth is, it made me curious for a while, but I was engrossed in my research more. How about this? A trade. I give you my knowledge about the spiders and how to create them. You show me this power and get me out of here? Servos said. Ha! You want me to exchange both knowledge and freedom with only knowledge, and you made it sound like a fair trade? I like you. You got me there, but I promise you that the magical spiders are always worth it. Don't worry about it. Even if I shared my knowledge with you, you won't be able to do anything with it anyway. I said, really? It is not a power anyone can use, but I promise you, it is worth it. Servos seemed conflicted. Even though he was caged, dark elves have the tendency to be thick-skinned. I am the son of Nurina Aran, and I know Dunmare too damn well. In exchange, you will teach my fiancé here how to make those little beautiful spiders. I said as I patted Jelliner's back. You want me to raise spiders? Jelliner was shocked. Yes, why not? You like spiders, right? She nodded happily. From the game, these spiders were known as the Spider Scrolls. They were really unique and made the game a bit fun. They were treated like scrolls, but one would equip a spider and throw it on the enemy. It had many effects and was really fun to troll with. Still, Their power was not to be neglected, and I need to understand how to craft them. As Joliner loves spiders and has a thing for alchemy, I guess she would be able to understand them quicker than any of us. Now, then, my name is John Dare from the College of Winterhold. What say you? You agree to my deal? I extended my hand through the cell bars and used a slight bit of aura to remove any naughty thoughts from his head. Servo seemed a bit frightened, but he shacked my hand back. Deal. Good then. Wolfer, the door. Wolfer took my place in front of the door and held the bars. His muscles plugged from his shirt and under his armor, and tink, the cage broke. How Wolfer breaks steel with his hand never ceases to amaze me. Azura. Thank you. Let me grab my notes, Servo said and started running around the cage grabbing his notes and stuff. This is the spider imbuing device. It is a bit heavy, but it is one of a kind. If we could take it, it would save us a lot of time to build a new one. Leave that to me, I said as I walked in the cave and clapped my hand. With that clap, the spider imbuing device was absorbed into my ring without Servo's noticing. Wow, is that the power you were talking about? Not even close, Alina retorted. Well, then let's get out of here before she comes, Servos said as he rallied us to leave. Not so fast. Finally, she spoke. The presence that was hiding at the end of the cave tunnel finally revealed itself. Mariller. Servos panicked when he saw her. Brother, were you just going to leave me with my research? She said as she walked out of the shadow with cat-sized spiders in her hands. Servos shivered and hid behind us. The spiders in her hands were glowing red with a flaming aura around them and were very energetic. You there, put back my imbuing device and step out. You said you knew. What is that chanting power in the sealed room? Fine, you are going to have an extensive talk about it, Mariller said with a hint of arrogance in her tone. I see where is this coming from. She is overconfident with her spider pets. Mariller, was it? I suggest that you don't do any action you would regret. I said calmly. Regret? My only regret is that I have left that backstabber alive. And you could do anything to me. While you were talking with this backstabber of a brother, I have surrounded the place with all of my spiders. Yeah, we pretty much noticed that. It was all in my range of detection anyway. TSK, you dare talk down on me? It is your mistake. As she said that, spiders crawled out from every nook and cranny. There were white spiders, red spiders, green spiders, and stranger spiders. These guys were really busy. But the most important thing was, did you just say dare? Oh boy. Chapter 237, White Ridge, The Story of Servos. This chapter comes to you by the good graces of Dark Priest and at Patrick_Schuster. 1/2. Also a quick announcement. I see that some of you are annoyed with the term cultivation, and actually me too. While it is possible in the world of the Elder Scrolls to do such a practice, it comes under the name meditation, and how are we going to do it from now? Meditation exists in the Sigic Order, CESO, and the Greybeards, C. Parthurnax training. Both are known as the Elder Way and the Way of the Voice, respectively. Way means Tao, and that is how the game company got inspired with it, so I'm only reversing it back. Servos and Marilarendas, two Dunmare brother and sister, grew up in Mournhold. Their family has lost most of its members during the events of the Red Year and the Argonian invasion, so when they were born afterward, they were born in a family of beggars and miners. Mournhold, the once great capital of Morrowind, is now not even a shadow of its former self, being close to the new borders with Blackmarch. The home of the Argonians, the former capital city, was now nothing but a frontier town. King Hlalu Helsith and his mother Queen Berenzia disappeared, and House Hlalu fell from glory after the invasion. Houses Drays and Telvanni lost their foothold in the city, and houses in Doril and Reduran took over for a while. Still, the people grew up in poverty, and the once classy Godsreach district and Plaza Brindisi Dorum are now camps for the refugees and slums for the fallen. Servos and Mariller were born after all these events, but they were from the generation that suffered the most. The Argonians bandits still raided around the broken walls of the city, and the new rulers were busy with politics and hoarding armies rather than ruling the broken city. Life was still not that unlucky. A charitable old lady from the city, known as the Old Woman of Mournhold, gathered a batch of talented kids and sent them to Shad Ashla Academy, an old place from the time of the Ebonheart Pact that was teaching magic and combat. The academy accepted any kid with talent to magic and was overseen by the 6 great houses of Morrowind. Of course, all these graduates would be enrolled in the private armies of the 6 houses. Not every kid in the academy was talented in combat, and a classification system appeared between the students. Those who were not talented in magic combat were cast down, as the great houses were looking for warriors and battle mages. Alas, Servos and Mariler were not from the talented ones. While Servos enjoyed alchemy and the magical studies, lately securing a place for himself, Mariler grew distant and aloof in her path of acquiring any power possible to join the elite. Not too many years passed, and Servos managed to become a scholar and a researcher, while Mariler kept pursuing her wish to become someone with a real standing in the world. Yet she ended up to be a mere low-class battle mage that has no use to the 6 houses. She grew envious and hateful while her brother started to find his talent in researching. That what led them to White Ridge Barrow. When they arrived at Solstheim, they discovered the native albino spiders and their ability to harness magic. They grew interested each for his own agenda. While Servos pursued his passion as a researcher, Mariler found herself a new path to find the power she always sought, and that's when it all started. With his first discovery of the cloaked fire spiders and the jumping fire spiders, Mariler locked her own brother in the lab deep in White Ridge and pursued another kind of power they found in the Barrow. Some chanting voices came from the innermost room of the Barrow, but Mariler realized it is too dangerous to explore. And with the new discovery of the mind control spider, Mariler started becoming bold, hunting down bandits and reeklings with them. She started to make her own little force. She wanted the power in the innermost room so bad, to the point that she was willing to even sacrifice her own brother for it. She went completely mad and locked her brother for 10 months. He himself managed to engross himself in the research for a while, but he was having it tough lately. He could hear her talking to herself and screaming and laughing. She was completely gone. Servos suffered on the hands of his sister what he didn't think possible and started to have thoughts of finally confronting her with all his force. But sadly, she was totally in control. He was the one who managed to make the spiders for her, so she had to keep him alive. She even put a mind control spider on him once, but it didn't work, and he was acting like an idiot. She had to keep forcing him like that for as long as she wished for. His prison days were bleak and tough, and he lost the track of time until one day, a band of explorers with 4 gigantic Nords and a Dunmare girl, who was tall but looked short beside the Nords, appeared in front of his cage. He was so desperate that he even offered his discovery for them, but they were really well-mannered and even agreed to exchange knowledge with him. Yet before they could depart, Mariler appeared with a lot of spiders and mind control bandits. This was so terrifying, as Servos never wanted to see his demonic sister again. He didn't want to fall in her hands and suffer for it, but he couldn't escape. He, who was a mere lab nerd, was only good at casting a few simple spells. Strangely enough, that sister of his provoked the leader of the band that freed him in a way that it seemed impossible for anyone to bear. Servos didn't understand what did she say or do, but he only heard those words from the red-haired man. "Didst thou just dare me? Art thou aware of the outturns of thy words?" The man acted as if he heard a taboo in his religion, and the atmosphere around him turned scary. Mariler and Servos were shocked by what she saw. The air around the red man, called John, turned heavy, so heavy that she couldn't breathe. His aura was overflowing and could be seen clearly as vines of green energy flowing around him. This was the aura art, a martial tradition that was developed back in the day by the remnants of the Dragon Knights and started to take many forms and shapes. All the best elite warriors of Shad Ashla have at least dabbled with the art, but this man was on a whole insane different level. Unspeakable fear started to manifest in Mariler's heart, but she couldn't take back the orders she gave to the spiders. Spiders are creatures that don't know fear or going back. They are cold-blooded and would never share the feeling of the hot-blooded humans. They followed her previous will to attack the people in front of her and kill them, but she wasn't aware that a mere word offended someone she should have foreseen his power. She was getting ready to acquire the power of the energy in the sealed room, but she knew now that she faced the adversary a bit too early and had no way of turning back. Thou wanted to dabble into that power from the word wall, art thou not? Therefore, alloweth me to showeth thou the power of John Dare, Lord of Winterhold, as mine breath is pure anger. Fussaroda. The force manifested from John's shout and battered its way across space to Mariler. She was staring with absolute disbelief as she was crushed and sent away to the endless abyss of the cave she came out from, never to be heard of again from this day onwards. All the spiders and the mind control bandits that filled the tunnel behind her were all crushed and sent away with John's shout. The most fitting word for this image of domination was purge. John purged those who stood in front of him with no single trace left. And he did it again. Alina smiled wryly at what happened. Why are people too crazy to use that word in front of him? I did it once, and I am suffering some memory loss. Jelena remembered some traumas. I've seen a lot of people say it to him in Riften, believe it or not. I still have some memory of that day. I said it to him as a joke. Wolfer said, What happened? Alina asked. He carried me with 2 hands and threw me into Riffin's canal. Almost drowned. I heard about his hate to the D word, that he even made it his last name so people think twice before saying it. But is it me, or he just quoted a piece from the Prayer of Talos? Jorna pointed out, and everyone ignored her. Yet behind the 5, there was a dark elven man who stood with a pale face. He was in utter shock and disbelief. Impossible. Servos reached wit's end before collapsing from shock. Servos woke up after some time in a different place. As he looked around himself, he only found a small girl sitting nearby him, and they seemed to be still in the ruins of White Ridge Barrow. He sat up from and looked at the girl who stared back at him with her lazy eye. She looked away with no interest at all. She seemed to be a human around 8 years of age, and she was extremely lovely. She was wearing a black dress that seemed really classy. Her hair was black, and his skin was pale, which made her seem to be a bit sick, but she had rosy cheeks and beautiful blue eyes that made her look as lovely as ever. Still, she gave the feeling of a doll made by a master artisan. Child, where is this? Who brought you here? She looked at him and spoke. Human did. Oh, who? I forgot. He told me to say his name in front of others. John brought us here. John, the red-haired man. Sir John, he is still here? Servos looked around himself and looked for John left and right. They're behind that door. Nefertiti simply pointed at the door at the end of the hall. Servos realized at once that this place is the innermost room of the barrow, the place that he sealed in fear of the unknown power behind it. He stood up and went towards the door, but Nefertiti spoke. Don't bother them. You will only get in the way. But TSK. Annoying. Nefertiti was not in the mood to have a conversation with a stranger. Being told to look over a man she doesn't know was beyond her understanding, but John promised her a good reward. Servos was overwhelmed by Nefertiti's personality and retreated to the wall opposite to her, then sat on the ground. He didn't understand why would the party of John would bring a little girl in such a dangerous place, but he would be damned if John came out of that room and found him sleeping. He could sense a lot of action and magic behind the door's room, which meant there was an ongoing fight, but in his mind, he had to take care of Nefertiti. As the long wait started, Servo started to look left and right for anything that might come out in this unexplored area and was a bit terrified himself. Yet as he was looking at the corridor that comes to this room, he noticed something moving. It was albino spiders, lots of them. Girl, watch out, hide behind me. Servos jumped up in front of Nefertiti, preparing his flame spell to face off that horde of spiders. His heart was beating wildly, but what he didn't foresee was Nefertiti walking in front of him. John said to take care of you, and I get more fish tonight. Don't cause me trouble, noisy guy. As she said those words in contempt, a strong wave of magicka gathered around her hand in a strange black color devoid of the usual light that comes out when someone casts a spell. Just as this spell was evoked on Nefertiti's hands, a barrage of black bolts and blades came out towards the albino spiders that appeared. In less than a few seconds, they were all wiped out. Servos was in a frozen state and didn't utter a word. He just stood there observing Nefertiti's actions. Nefertiti, of course, wouldn't give a rat's ass about how mere mortals look at her and walked in small steps towards the spiders she killed. She then started to break their pods from their bodies. She put the pods neatly on the side with other pods and threw the bodies away to the pile of bodies. Other pods? Pile of bodies? Servos noticed something he didn't notice before and understood what happened here. These were not the first spiders she killed. There were more when he was sleeping. Servos was terrified from that girl's ability and backed away to his wall and sat silently. A few minutes later, the door of the boss room was opened and the Dunmare girl walked out with a sword and a crossbow in her hands and a buckler tied to her forearm. She was wearing a leather battle dress that looked like that of the Imperial Legion, but it was sleeveless and black. Servos remembered her as the girl John described as his fiancée. Nefertiti, come heal, big sister. She saw the small girl and ran towards her with open arms. Nefertiti frowned a bit and tried to back away, but the Jelliner was fast and hugged her while trying to give Nefertiti a kiss, but Nefertiti was pushing Joel's face away. Soon after, John and the rest came from the door. This is really a good harvest, a word wall, a black book, and a dragon priest mask. We finished 2 locations in 2 days. John said. This one was much easier than Ozidal. Jorna said. Of course, Ozidal was a legend and powerful necromancer. Dukin is a cryomancer, and we have Wolfer and Alina on our team, so frost magic is really not a problem at all. John replied. He was excited and gave a cheer. Just as they noticed Servos, John came towards him. Servos Rendas, was it? Sorry to give you such a scare and sorry about your associate. She gave me no choice back then, John said as he offered his hand. Such a mighty warrior was offering Servos a shake. Servos was already sweating, but he managed to get a hold of himself. To John's words about Mariler, Servos sighed and nodded. It is okay. Mariler has already done what she has done. I hope that what happened today put an end to her suffering before she would turn into someone I would never bear to know. No hard feelings then. Not at all. Sarah, thank you for saving me. Don't mention it. My men should be outside the barrow by now to scavenge what we can't carry. We recovered the body of Mariler for you to give her a burial. My men will escort you to Raven Rock, and we will meet there in a few days. Thank you, Sarah, truly. John patted Servos' shoulder and led the team out of White Ridge Barrow to the outside. Outside the barrow, Ongium and 20 Dare Trooper were waiting for John and his team. John gave Ongium the orders on what to do and assigned him to take care of Servos and keep an eye on him. To John, Servos was a good asset and someone worthy to spend some time and money on. John wanted to see the true potential of the Spider Scrolls as something he really enjoyed when he played the game. In the game, Servos was already dead before the player reaches him, and Mariler would be commanding a horde of mind-controlled bandits and spiders that he created, but that should be a long time from the date they are in right now. It meant that Servos' suffering would have been greater if John didn't come to help. With that all said and done, John led the team to the last dungeon in Phase 2, Gyldenhole Barrow, the resting place of the King of Ghosts, the legendary pirate Hackner Deathbrand. Captain Hackner Deathbrand. Chapter 238, Deathbrand 1, The Trove. Happy Valentine's Day, guys. You are all my Valentine this year, which is not cool because I'm still single. Also vote, vote, vote. Extra chapter, every plus $10, Patreon or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. Gyldenhole Barrow is a Nordic crypt on an island to the east of Solstheim. It was the resting place of Hackner Deathbrand, one of the most bloodthirsty pirates in the Sea of Ghosts. We landed on the island after a short flight on our flame Atronak Hawks. The island was filled with pirates that used the D words when we went into a verbal battle at first. As a man of honor, I had to keep my appearance and keep on the verbal battle. None would disagree if I used the dragon language, right? Right. Anyway, as soon as we chased the pirates from the island, we gathered in front of the entrance of Gyldenhull Barrow. I recovered 4 large chests from my Haven Cube and put them neatly around. In these chests, there are 4 armor pieces that belong to the King of Ghosts, Hakner Deathbrand. As the legend states, he was a legendary, fearsome pirate king who ruled the northern seas centuries ago. He was supposedly a formidable warrior in combat and was said to charge in a battle wearing a gleaming set of Stalrim armor while wielding his twin scimitars, Blood Scythe and Soul Render. He also was known for his rages and fits of madness. His own crew was said to tremble in his presence, and he supposedly delighted in torture and murder for its own sake. A legend among the pirates and pirate kings of the north, he was said to have lived an unnaturally long life, which led to several rumors of how he achieved this. Some believe he fed upon the blood and souls of those he killed to extend his life. Others thought him a Daedra, loosed upon the mortal world. Some tales even claim he made a pact with Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Prince of Destruction. Despite his prolonged age, he was not immortal, and as death approached, he was expected to name a successor. To the surprise of his crew, he decided that none of his crew were either strong or worthy enough to take his place in treasure, even in his frail state. Instead, he placed a curse upon the ship, his crew, his armor, and his swords. His decree was until the day he could be bested in combat. Nobody could have his treasure. His crew, deathly afraid of Hakner, had no choice but to accept. Now we have the 4 pieces of his Stalrim armor, and we are in front of his resting place to battle him and claim the treasures he left. One of us should battle Hakner's ghost while the others keep his crew in check. It will be similar to the fight with Ozidal, but this time we'll be facing a fearsome warrior rather than a fearsome mage. Any questions? May I ask a question? Which one of us will be facing Hakner? Wolfer asked. I would love to see volunteers, only that who best Hakner can claim his treasures. I've already assembled my armor, and this should be someone else's. I also think that armor pieces are not large enough for me. I said, truth be told, one of the major reasons I don't have a lot of heavy body armors is my size. Wolfer can fix stuff for me, but I need a true artifact. Savior's Hide is light and strong, and as a Daedric artifact of its coolest features that it would change its size to adapt with the new user. One can notice that feature greatly when comparing an item like the Mace of Molag in TSV, Skyrim, and ESO. Still, I had an eye on the one who will be facing Hakner Deathbrand. Alina, a light Stalrim armors, and 2 powerful sabers. What say you? Alina looked at me and nodded slightly. Hakner Deathbrand once killed a sword master from my ancestors a long time ago. It would be appropriate for my clan to finally repay him after all these years. I heard her words and took out 2 sabers of my cube. You moon sabers. Thank you. She took them and waved them around effortlessly. She didn't like to enchant her moon sabers, as she inherited them from her mother like that. She doesn't have any of her own, as she didn't stay in her clan because of the incident of Quagmire. After preparing, Alina removed her crimson college robe and stepped forwards with her sabers and armor. She uses a light elven armor that is very easy to move in. She also enchanted it herself with wind enchantments. Let's go, she said as she walked to the entrance with confidence. The entrance is still locked. Oh, find them. Unlock it. She was clearly nervous, so I had her stand aside. I cast Electro Hand on the iron gate of the barrow and clutched on it. It looked from aside as if I have tied the gate with a chain of lightning and pulling it out, which was true. The power of Electric Hand was awesome. With some effort, the gate was pulled from its place and flew to the back with a small cloud of dust rising where it landed. I then followed it by a small summon of undead and had around 20 wraithmen around me. You really love necromancy. Joel mocked me. Oh, right, happy Valentine's Day, love. It is NEC, romancy. Thanks, John. By the way, you are the worst. No, I have prepared the gifts a week ago. Ah, I have prepared yours before we leave Winterhold. Joel said, well, I guess I'm the worst, you are the man. No worries, girl. Let's go. There is no Valentine is ES Universe, but added it for you guys. The inside of Gyldenhole Barrow was dry and dusty, with a strong stench of death lurking all over the place. John and his team advanced through the barrows while guarding their surroundings with undead. John doesn't remember this place having any traps, but one can never be too cautious. Around the place, there were a lot of sarcophaguses with a stallroom over them. This is Wolfer pointed. The original use of a stallroom was to encase the dead with it. It was some sort of rituals made by the old Nords in Solstheim to prevent draugrs from forming. I see. We will send Ongium to harvest that later, but now I want you to open this one for me. John pointed at the last sarcophagus. Wolfer nodded and took out his notched pickaxe. With his strong body, a few knocks were enough to bring down the stallroom at the sarcophagus. I hate this word. Sarcophagus. It is the box-like funeral receptacle for a corpse draugrs come out from in Skyrim. With the stallroom down, a passage appeared behind it. As it seemed it was a fake sarcophagus. Through it, the crew passed to another corridor after collecting the stallroom. They arrived at a big gate, and John used Electro-Hand once again to blow it away. What appeared behind the gate was something, even though John knew it was here, he was still shocked nonetheless. The whole passage behind the gate was filled with hold. Gold coins, gold ingots, gold statues, gold crowns, gold weapons. Everything was just gold. It was as if they went into Scrooge McDuck's vault or found the one piece before Luffy. It was simply madness. Each one of them lost their marbles from what they saw. Kind's mercy, Alina, Ismir's beard, Jorna, Shore's bones, Wolfer, Mara's love, Jelinar, Debella's bikini. John, what is that? Something if you know. You'd all be called John Dare. Normally he would say sweet baby Talos, but that was a good chance to use his new exclamation swear. There was no time to focus on John anyway. They all walked into the room all at once to put their hands on these treasures, but John suddenly blocked their way. It is cursed, guys. They woke up from their state of hypnosis and looked at the treasures while drooling. I promise you that I will put all that in a separate space in the cube and make you all swim in gold. Fine, but I set my eye on that golden eye patch first. Jelinar said, as she almost cried. Whatever you want, but have you noticed that once we passed in, the entrance got sealed behind us? As John said, they all looked at the back and found a lot of steel bars blocking the pathway out. Don't worry, I left a space mark out there and I can teleport us out. No biggies. Now let's go. They bypassed the treasure room, suppressing all their urges to touch anything. It was hard, but they managed to do it. The last gate led them to a very large burial hall. It was very old, and its walls seemed to house a lot of dead. John organized the Wraithmen to form a circle formation and went forward with Alina and the rest to the place where Hackner Deathbrand last rested. Once they reached the altar on the other end of the hall, John told Alina to take the sword on the pedestal. This was a saber sword made of very high-quality ebony that gave off a red glow all around it. The sword's name is Blood Scythe. As soon as Alina took Blood Scythe from its place, powerful energy swirled in the hall, and its entrance got locked too. A blue magical circle gave off a strong glow in the middle of the hall, and a pale, transparent figure appeared. A ghost. Around it, other ghosts started to appear. Their number was large. These were Hackner and his crew. Wolfer held his hammer, the champion's cudgel, with two hands leaving his shield on his back. So did Jorna, who carried Stormfall. Jelinar stood beside John and aimed her crossbow forward. Nefertiti was summoned from the cube, and she was already in her work hat form. Alina and John looked at each other and nodded. With two sabers in her hands and two staves in his, they all prepared for a bloody fight. Chapter 239, Deathbrand 2. Alina Moonblade vs. Hackner Deathbrand. This chapter comes to you by the good graces of at Dark Priest and at Patrick_Schuster February 2nd. Alina put her fears aside for the time being and took the lead by herself. It was the time to show the effort of all these years of relentless training. Wulfr and Jorna took the sides. Joel and Nefertiti stayed near John as he was summoning Frost and Storm Atronax instead of undead. John's Atronax seemed to be bigger than usual this time. These were the greater Atronax. Atronax can also have grades, and with their grades their normal form changes slightly. A mage can summon an Atronax when they are at the rank of an apprentice conjuration mages. Rank 2. At that rank the Atronax are normal ones in abilities and in appearance. But when the conjurer is at the rank of an adept, rank 3, they can summon the more powerful potent Atronax. John was able to summon potent Atronax since the time he left Riften more than 2 years ago, and now he summoned the greater Atronax that can only be summoned by expert conjurers, rank 4. There are thralls and monarchs, but these are only summonable by masters and archwizards. Reforming the Atronax also depended on their grade. Horses and wolves can be mimicked by the normal Atronax. Bears and hawks can be mimicked by the potent Atronax. And with the greater Atronax, John still haven't researched that far yet. He was hoping to learn something new from Lonith and Nurina, who kept researching further in the matter, but that was not the time for these thoughts. He had to master the control of the greater Atronax first and reform them later. As soon as the undead were switched with the Atronax, the power of the two sides was balanced right away. The Atronax are normally more powerful than the undead, and John was actually a better conjurer than a necromancer. But the undead were smaller in size and easy to manipulate because of their lack of ego, which can make their lack of ego. With that, the Greater Frost Atronax took the front with their bigger sizes that surpassed the potent and the normal Atronax greatly. Each one of those can make 3 of the Deathbrand pirates busy. The Greater Storm Atronax also became bigger than before, and instead of being a floating pile of rocks, they now have a visible figure made of rocks connected together with lightning to resemble arms, legs, ribs, and all else. The fearsome appearance of John's Atronax provoked the dead crew of Hackner Deathbrand, and they all attacked at once. All the living shall fear the dead. The voice Hackner Deathbrand echoed through the hall as he and his crew started there to attack. Stick to the plan. Alina, Giulo. John unleashed his battle cry that echoed through the hall of Gyldenhall, and his 4 friends were enchanted and rallied forward. He then let go of the Skull of Corruption and cast a rune under it, then powered it with a soul gem. There was a technique to keep the staff casting the rune while taking power from the soul gem without the need of the caster. John held the staff of Sheogorath on his left and summoned a bound sword in his right, then joined the fray. Wulfr and Jorna were wielding heavy weapons each, and their strikes smote the old ghosts. Jelinar was targeted by a deadly arrow, but avoided it by a hair's width. The shooter seemed to be a skillful archer. She focused on the ghost that just targeted her and aimed at him. When this man was alive, he was known as Garuk Windrime, and he was the quartermaster of Hackner. He was an incredible archer, and Jelinar's battle with him turned to be a contest of accuracy, speed, and surprises. At first, Jelinar managed to overwhelm Garuk with the incredible reloading speed of her lever-action crossbow, but soon the sly ghost managed to retake his ground. Ghosts may have become husks of what they used to be in terms of raw power, but their existence was all about memories, and from that their experiences were still as bright as ever. Garuk started shooting 2 arrows at once while using archery techniques to increase his speed. He was not short on arrows and spared Jelinar all that he could. On the other side of the hall, John was facing the Lynn Ebonhand, Hackner's ship helmsman and a powerful spells word. John, however, wasn't in a disadvantage at all. His bound sword could do a great deal of damage to undead, especially ghosts like the Lynn, and the staff of Sheogorath was able to make the movement of the Lynn harder. The unmounted on the top of the staff kept staring at the Lynn and reduced its movement speed. He could only rely on magic to try to compete with John, who was avoiding it all like nothing. Nefertiti was in her workout form, and she was having the fun of her life. She loved being in that form, especially because it made her tall. She kept running on all four, then disappear in shadows to appear in another area, like she was fighting and attack them from behind. All the knowledge about underhanded combat were hammered into her by John. Lastly, there was the protagonist of this fight, Alina. She was facing Hackner Deathbrand all by herself. She crossed her two swords together and scraped them together, making an unpleasant sound and a spark. "Kind, bless my blades!" She roared and ran forward. The Firekeeper blindfold on her eyes glowed red, and her aura glowed blue. Her long black hair swayed behind her, and her sword moved in an artistic fashion as soon as she reached Hackner, then disappeared. She appeared an instant later behind Hackner, and slashed at his neck. She teleported with an inner cast spell she prepared forward. Still, it was not that little preparation what would take down the Ghost King of Ghosts. Hackner's blade was blocking hers without him even looking back. A skill unfathomable is needed to wave a slash away from your back. But Alina was just starting. She read Hackner's next attack, which came from other blade, targeting her neck, and she acted accordingly. She simply exhaled a blow from her fine lips, and a bizarre thing happened. Hackner was blown from his place, and she retreated back in the air. This was a power only available to a daughter of Kine, Kine's breath. That breath didn't only have force, but it was freezing like the blizzard wind of winter. A ghost like Hackner wouldn't be affected by a simple element like frost, but that frost was the gift from a goddess to one of her favored daughters. An unholy being like an undead ghost won't take that one easily. Still, Hackner was someone not to be underestimated. As the breath blew him away, he managed to use the force that pushed him and redirect his direction by revolving around a blade of his moving away. Alina noticed the movement of the sword, and her blood boiled. One of the martial arts that hailed in her family was the dance on a sword. It seemed that the Moonblade ancestor that Hackner killed in the past used that move and copied it from him. To Alina, it is an insult and a shame to her ancestor to let the secret art leak out. Her power started gushing out, and Hackner felt it, but it was hard to apply a mental effect on the dead. It was not as effective as she hoped it would be, but she was at her full readiness again. Alina moved forward was a sword dance that made her swords go in circles and her legs move in a weird fashion. She was totally in control of her body and well protected, but the move's main purpose was to distract the enemy from noticing where the kill move will come from. It seemed that Hackner had an experience with that move too, as he retracted right away, not daring to put himself in a bad gamble. Alina seemed to not be going anywhere with her maneuver, so she stopped it and inner cast a wind rune on her back, then activated it. A daring move that would damage her was moved to move her forward in an instant. As soon as she knew it, she was right beside Hackner, and they waved their sword against each other again. Cling, cling, cling. The three slash were well performed, but the speed was equal. Thankfully, Hackner can't exert more power or speed as Ghost, else the situation would have ended differently. His attacks were the deadliest Alina experienced. Each slash she blocked, she pushed away from the Reaper with all her effort. The fourth slash, however, was as far as it could go. Hackner managed to disarm Alina's right hand, and the blade fell from her hand pinned on the ground between them. With the enemy's sword a few inches away from cleaving her neck off, Alina pushed her left-hand blade down and performed the same move Hackner did to avoid her sky breath. She managed to retreat a foot to the back to only see Hackner's blade trim off a few hairs that lingered ahead, but she was too focused on her counterattack to even give that a thought. With her left-hand blade on the ground, Alina jumped up and held herself up on the blade with her free hand casting a bound sword and her legs kicking at Hackner's face. The first missed, the second landed, and the bound sword grazed his shoulder, but he also managed to injure Alina's shoulder. She hurriedly landed her first leg on the right-hand blade that was still stuck to the ground and jumped from it over Hackner's head. While she was on the air, she exchanged over 4 slashes with him from above, but couldn't cut his head off and landed in a tight spot. With her 2 legs landing first on the ground, Hackner found the chance and slashed as fast as he could towards her legs before she ensures her foothold. Alina knew that this was a disaster and decided to sacrifice one foothold to ensure the other, and pulled her left knee upward, blocking Hackner's attack with its guard while blocking the other sneak attack that came from above with her blade and bound sword. In a tight situation, it was hard to counterattack from this at all. This gave Hackner the right timing to keep on momentum and use the blade on her knee to attack her face. She reacted rashly and retreated her head to the back, but it seemed that Hackner's target wasn't her face but her swords. He kept slashing upwards, striking her swords and knocking them away in one go. Alina was cornered to the limit this time, and the First Lady of House Dare was not going to let it end like that. She used her magic once again to cast one risky spell, and wind blasted once again between her and Hackner. She was blown away, and he was also sent to the back. Alina landed on the ground with an injured shoulder, an injured knee, and a very tired body. She stood up as fast as she could to do anything before Hackner comes for her life. She saw Hackner fixing his stance and was about to charge at her, but what she noticed was how her right-hand blade was stick to the ground, still waiting patiently to be picked. Alina tore a page from John's book and decided to go on dare mode. She stood without a fighting stance to show mysteriousness, raised her head upward to show superiority, and smugly smiled to provoke him. Hackner sensed the change in Alina's air as she seemed a lot calmer and much more dangerous. As he decided to assess the situation once more, Alina had already executed the first part of her plan. She stood where she wanted to be and looked Hackner. Her stance showed readiness. Her head was lowered and showed firmness, and her senses were heightened as she entered a certain zone. It was like two cowboys standing face to face for who would shoot the bullet fastest. Hackner moved first toward Alina, as he couldn't translate anymore, and wanted to finish this once and for all, but that was what all Alina wanted. He is now in a charge and can't change his direction easily. What was left would not KSD. Alina shouted the Thursday she trained on for years in its fullest form this time. She was launched with speed that surpassed her imagination, but she was not overwhelmed. With that charge, she managed to grab her sword in slash. Cut. Her charge ended as she appeared on the other end of the hall in a slashing pose. Hackner was frozen in his place in a slashing pose too. Blood flowed from Alina's arm, and she knelt to the ground holding her wounded arm with her other hand. Hackner, on the other hand, got his head separated from his body, but it dissolves in thin air. By that time, John had finished the Lin right away, and Jeliner was done with Garuk. Their main focus was Alina, who seemed to be injured. John teleported beside Alina in a poof and knelt beside her. Good job, Alina. It was marvelous. Chapter 240, A Bit of Peace. Extra chapter, every plus $10, patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. When Alina opened her eyes, she found herself lying on a soft mattress and feeling warm. The place around her was that of a gray stony space with dwarven metal bars supporting the walls. It looked like the inside of a dwarven ruin, but that was how the inside of the Haven Cube looked like. As this place was adjusted by John, there was a large pool of water and a patch of dirt with trees, flowers, and plants on it. This all surrounded the bed Alina was on. John's decorations made Alina smile, even though she was used to sleeping in this place, which is their private space in the cube. She went off the bed and checked her body to find that all her wounds were properly treated and no trace of a scar could even be seen. It was depressing that she collapsed at the end of her fight, but the things around her fixed her mood greatly. There were sweet rolls and honey treats that seemed to have been left for her by Jeliner. There was also an armor placed on an armor stand that looked rather fabulous. It was made of stalrim, a sort of unmelting ice that can be considered equal to ebony in quality. The body armor was made of a cuirass, pauldrons and greaves, all as one piece. There was the helm that seemed to have been modified to be mounted with her Firekeeper blindfold. The boots and the gauntlets, too, were cleaned and tweaked to fit her. There were two Stalrim sabers that glowed red and blue respectively and looked really beautiful and sinister at the same time. It seems that she had slept for a long time, that even Wolfer managed to finish modifying the armor for her. Alina walked to a container and took out a black battle robe that seemed to be fitting and heavy enough. Then she put it on. She then started to wear the armor on it. It really fit too well. Even the sword's weight was just right. For a strong and tall Nord girl like her, she could not think of a better armor set to have. If she wasn't mistaken, this armor was not crafted by a Nord. It had an elven touch to it and looked like the elven glass armors. Check the ice armor from Morrowind or from Morrowind Armor Compilation by T. Husky on Skyrim Nexus. Basically Skyrim glass armor in a Stalrim theme. There was a note with the handwriting of John that said, "Sup, beauty? Gave us a scare back there. Well, hope you are well when you wake up. I told Nefertiti to stay with you, but you know cats. Joel and Jorna will be checking on you. Wolfer and I fixed the armor for you and left you to rest. Come to the main space when you are ready. Your armor is Death Brand armor. Makes itself and every other piece from the set weightless. Death Brand gauntlets increases your physical power. Death Brand boots increases your speed. Death Brand helm, it has a perfect water-breathing enchantment. When all the pieces are put together, it gives you an armor skin passive effect that was really amazing when we tested it. The two Stalrim sabers are Blood Scythe, which absorbs some of the foe's vitality and transfers it to you. It's very destructive against armors and glows with a hint of red. Soul Render, which absorbs some of the foe's magicka and transfers it to you. It also is strong against magic in general and glows with a hint of blue. And that's all there is to it. I told you I am saving the best for you. Just remember that Stalrim is transparent and you need to wear something under else it will. And the rest of the note was John being John. Alina smiled and put it away, then head to the main space of the cube. The spaces can be accessed to each other through doors, and the user of the cube needs to spend his magical power to keep all the additional spaces maintained, but that was no problem to a magicka monster such as John. Once Alina went to the main space, she found it in complete mayhem. Jellinar and Jorna were playing on gold. The amount of gold they acquired from Hackner's tomb was mounted on top of each other, and Jellinar was sliding from the top, its top to bottom. Jorna was sitting on the gold, as if it is a chair, and slid down with Jellinar. I can understand Joel childish actions, but Jorna, you really, TSK. Oh, Alina, you're up. Jellinar and Jorna saw her and ran towards her. Joel was putting on a golden eye patch and a crown made of gold and jewels. There were necklaces and rings all over her. Jorna was wearing a golden fabric cape that seemed really expensive and had a golden staff in her hand. Oh, that armor looks good on you. More beautiful than my ring mail. Yeah, it is beautiful. Thanks. Where's John, and why are you sliding on that gold like that? Come on, it's really fun. Joel said. Only in your bean-sized brain. What about you, Jorna? Well, I told her to stop, but I ended up losing to her. Then let me be ashamed for you. Say that after you try it. Asterisk 1 minute later. The three girls slid together from the gold mound once all at once. This is so much fun. Told you so. The girls took a while to calm down until they sat together like ladies once again. Where is John? Outside with Nefertiti and Wolfer. Are we not in Raven Rock yet? And how long was I sleeping? You slept for a day, and we are at a place called Saringswatch, an ancient Nordic temple with a word wall that John was really interested in. Oh, he said something about a very powerful Thursdayum that he would love to learn. I see. I am heading out then. Alina parted with the girl to the middle of the space and touched the light ball that would send her out. Before she knows, she found the blue vast sky in front of her. There were a lot of ruins surrounding the land in front of her, and it seemed that there are also some freshly destroyed draugrs. Hey there. A voice called for her, and she looked back. Hey, Wolfer. She turned around to see Wolfer and Nefertiti sitting together on the ground. They were in the shade of a word wall that John was there too, but he seemed meditating. How long since he was like this? Since yesterday, we finished working on your armor and came here to study the word wall. Looks nice, by the way. Thanks. Is he progressing well? Yes, you won't believe it, but he made another energy pulse this morning. It was strong. I was meditating with beside him, and he had almost pushed me away. That's strong? This means he is in the 9th level of the dragon robbing realm. Quite fast. He said that his energy is all stable now, which means something I didn't really understand. It means that all the energy in his Magicka pool has successfully got merged with his life force, and his essence energy became stable. Took him longer than us. Sister-in-law, the more you speak, the less I understand. By the way, now that you have mastered the whirlwind sprint shout, what is the other one you are after? Sigh, it has been years since I started training on that shout, and mastered it in 5 years. By that time, John has mastered over 6, right? He is working on the 7th now. Wolfer handed her one of John's notes that were lying on his bag. Alina opened it, and it was a translation to the word wall of Saring's watch. It said, Ketsagal Varukiv Bar, Fin. Gola W.O. Pirel H.E.T. M.U.L.N. O.L. Joel Asen Onikiv Nunon. Wam-Az with Sanan Duonik. Translation. This stone commemorates Bar, the earth hunter who sat here still, as earth awaits enlightenment only, to become old instead of wise. John has marked the word Gol, which means earth. This was part of a very powerful shout that is known as the Ben will shout. A higher Thursday that needed to be learned diligently, and would take John weeks to comprehend this word after he heard its chant from the word wall. He even won't be able to learn the other words until their knowledge is given to him, even though he knows what they are and what they mean. A shout like Bendwell was one of the hardest shouts to learn and needed a source to comprehend them from. Shout like the unrelenting force or whirlwind sprint were considered very easy. Alina turned the pages to the back and started looking at the other shouts that were recorded in the note. These were all the shouts that John gathered, and were all rated from the easy shouts to the difficult shouts to the endgame shouts. Alina understood John's rating system and looked for an easy shout right away. There were some that John has invented himself, but they were very flawed and unstable, yet it was a legendary feat on its own. A hidden clan may have 2 or 3 shouts at the very best, and only a handful of their members barely learn a word or 2 in their lifetimes. John's note was a treasure that would make all the clans go crazy if discovered. His talent in the Thursday is very famous, and he is not shy about it, but his knowledge is on a godly level. He can even curse and crack jokes in the dragon language if he wanted to. After browsing carefully, she chose the elemental fury shout and memorized John's notes on it. Well, who do we have here? John opened his eyes and saw Alina in her new armor browsing through his note. I heard you passed the 9th level. How awesome of me. No, as expected of you. You know how to make it sound better. John stood up and closed on Alina. Ahem, but Wolfer announced his presence. Bro, go in the cube. Why don't you two go in the cube? Or better, get us to Raven Rock. Sigh, fine. You all go back in the cube, then, and I will teleport myself there. Nefertiti returned the cube to John, and he let Wolfer and Nefertiti go in first. Before we go, how are you feeling? He asked. I am fine. She stuck closer to him, and he hugged her in return. He whispered something to her ears and giggled while punching his chest playfully. They exchanged a few kisses under the sunset before she goes into the cube again. John transformed the cube into a ring and evoked a strong teleportation spell after that. He kept charging it with Magicka until he became able to reach a mental link with the rune he left in Raven Rock. Once all was complete, John disappeared in a poof. Chapter 241, Falbthar's Ruins. A shout-out for Guy Pierron. Extra chapter, every, plus $10, patron or PayPal. Extra chapter, 5,000 votes. Extra chapter, 8,000 votes. The return to Raven Rock was flashy, but I was getting ready for Phase 3, the final and the most important part of our plan. Thus, after dinner, I sat alone, sorting out the maps and the notes all over the place around me. If only I had a laptop. I am not insulting you, Mr. System, or anything, but sometimes the augur is too prideful to help me. Sigh. Well, I'll invite some golem with mathematical abilities to help me. I was really tired. Too much work, too little time. Was this the type of life I sought after? I adventure and have fun all day, but the work, I freaking hate it. I haven't studied magic properly the last few days, and my meditation is taking part of the problem too. I need to take a vacation after this. Maybe the problem is not time, maybe the hiatus I am having. I can't think of something new at all, and my head is bothering me with lazy ideas. I have indulged myself in luxury a bit too much. Never thought I would be this rich from the start. I really need some guidance from Nurina right away, maybe leave some work to the kids from the office, and go stay in the dorm to get myself back on track. Not the time for these lazy thoughts anyway. Back to the plan. Where is I? Yes, Phase 3. We have 4 locations to visit this time, 2 dwarven ruins and 1 Nordic. Easy? Nope, not at all. First, the crew never went to a dwarven ruin before, and I only went into a replica one Undertale FYR when I was teleported to Morrowind. The real dwarven ruins are deadly. The traps are relentless, and the dwarven machines are considered to be what kills explorers the most. This time we're going heavy but fast. We need blunt weapons and good armors, but we also need to be light and fast. More to that, dwarven machines are immune to frost magic, which will vex Alina, but I am sure her wind magic can blow them away. They have 25% magic resistance and are seriously annoying. At the end of the day, I sorted the stuff out and assigned the weapon and spells the 6 of us need. Putting this aside, I had to focus on myself for a bit. My meditation training is going better than ever, but I need resources. Truth be told, circulating the energy in my energy channels is not enough. If we found a source of Padamic or Anuic energies, we could share them and make our training go smoother, but I am not sure where to. The Heartstones are still dangerous, and their energies are hard to extract. Still, doing it with the girls is effective and they are enjoying it, so I'm not complaining more. It wasn't long since I had to gather my notes back together and go out to have some fun. A day passed, and we were all lazing around in the town. I wasn't engaged in any activity, so I met up with Angium to see how the cleaning of the Nordic ruins we conquered was and how was the researcher, Servos, doing. It seemed that after he cremated his sister's body, he decided to join the research group from my company and help for a bit to distract himself. He was now in Raven Rock and exchanged a lot of information with Joel about the magical spiders for some rough explanation about the Thursdayum. In the end, he accepted my invitation to work in Winterhold, and I now have one more talented biology researcher. I will ask him to discover other sources of Anuic and Padamic energies, but that will be for later until I trust him enough. This day ended with us going to the Retching Netch to have a bit of fun and share our newly remade creation, the Gwent. Yes, I recreated a famed card game known as Gwent based on the cards of the Elder Scrolls Legends. It wasn't hard to make factions like the Morrowind faction and the Skyrim faction. The gambling business in this world may not know this yet, but the day I recreated Gwent was the day I dug their graves. None will be able to recreate my cards that were made by a secret material from Master Neurilian's lab and trademark enchantment of mine. The day also ended with me selling more than 100 Morrowind deck, 50 Skyrim, 50 beasts, and many unique and effect cards to the Retching Netch with all the book guides and the other stuff. The other day came and we're starting Phase 3. Who's excited? None. John, you are a total M. Thank you. That was not a compliment. I know, but I still liked it. To the Haven Cube, we are going to Falbs. Falbraz. Foul. What? It a dwarven name? Truly a mouthful. I wrote it here. It is called Foul Beatijars. Falbthars. I'm very glad there are no dwarves in this world anymore. Yep, so we can loot their abandoned cities. Now all to the cube, let's go. I rallied the team to enter the cube and starting casting the teleport spell to reach the Waterstone. From there, I rode a flame Atronak hawk, then traveled to Falbthars and fought some Reeklings from the air to clear the entrance of the ruin. The dwarven structures of the exterior were reaching outside the ground, which is a rare case for the dwarven structures in general, and it was partially destroyed. There are also a few weakling structures as well, but I burned them to force the pesky creatures away. Come out! I called the guys in the cube after I landed, and they found themselves in front of the Dwemer ruin. That was fast. All right, listen up. According to the books I read, this place was built by the dwarves to serve as a sporting ground. It is filled with traps and dwarven war machines, and heaven knows what else. Alina, you're comfortable with the twin mauls I gave you? Wolf and Jorna, nice hammers. Nefertiti, here, you can use my old hammer in your workhat form. Please don't damage your nails on those machines. Joel, I'm using the exploding bolts. Me too, I said and took out a crossbow. Let's get this thing done. I walked forward, aiming my crossbow ahead, and pushed the door open. Clear left. Joel. Clear right. Me. Roger. Proceeding with caution. Wolf. They enjoyed doing it every time. Alina. We proceeded in the normal formation and started shooting down all the tangos in the way. The entrance was infested with reekling, but they were nothing serious to begin with. We pumped into a slicer trap, but thankfully we managed to break it and destroy its pressure plate. As soon as we passed that, we met the first guardians in the ruins. Dwarven spheres. 3 balls came from the wall ahead and rolled towards us. Wolf and Jorna took the front with their shields and hammers. Once the dwarven sphere got closer, their shapes started to transform from rolling balls to a semi-humanoid automaton that rose from the ball itself. Awesome. Wolf lost its cool completely. Chilled up, you dolt. Sorry. This was clearly our first time in a dwarven dungeon, so I expected that, but something else I was waiting for now, and that was the first strike from the spheres that landed on Wolfer's shield. The look on his face changed completely. I told him to take it more seriously, but now he realized what it means to face a machine, a whole new concept of fighting. His right foot stomped to the back, and the hammer in his hand reacted in a rotational wave, coming from down to up and hammering the dwarven sphere from its base, completely staggering it and making it retreat. As the center of the weight was in its wheel-like legs, it managed to come back, but Wolf was already attacking the other one. Assist him. I rallied up everyone, and we started attacking the dwarven spheres in return. It was a violent but noisy fight. At the end, we put them down splendidly. These bastards, they are tougher than I thought. Show me your training results, and tell me you can do it. I can do it. Good. Because this is just a place saying hey. I like how their faces change from lazy to serious once they realize that the fight with the machines is not some plaything. These machines are tougher than the undead and do not tire. They will do everything they are designed to do to kill. We proceeded again and faced more spheres, so we kept destroying them and taking their parts until we arrived at a place with a large control panel. I have never seen anything like this in the books. Alina said, I told you before that this is not your run-in-the-mill dwarven ruin. This is a sports ruin. A death sport. That panel had 10 buttons, and one would open the gate ahead, while the others would probably activate the traps around the room. As much as I am okay with traps, I had to keep my friends safe and pointed out the safe button, the second from the right, bottom row, even though they pressed some wrong ones to see what they can do. After passing the room, we came across a kinetic resonator, which is 4 small blue orbs set in paddle-like extensions on a metal pole. Those orbs spin around the pole when activated and opened us another gate. We walked through some broken steam pipes and flammable substance until we reached a mushroom garden. There were more dwarven sphere and dwarven spiders that shot us with lightning magic and was really cool as I had to pin one of them down with Wolfer to study the idea behind it for our Tesla Tower project. After the girls shouted at us, we had to destroy Spidey, but I told Wolfer not to be saddened as there is a better chance to study them soon in the future. After that, we arrived at Falbthar's main chamber. It was a place that made us all go in awe, an expansive chamber full of tall pillars, bearing platforms and walkways at their higher levels, and many giant spinning gears on the lower levels, shortly above a large pool of water. The idea behind this place is to jump on the gears to reach the place it leads to. Can't we just teleport? Good idea, but impossible. I just tried to use it, but the space was locked. We can't even levitate. I used the third eye spell to watch the flow of magicka through the space, and found some large magic imprinted in the area to block all the aspects of teleportation and levitation. Kinda hardcore. On the plus side is, I know this dungeon very well from the game, so no biggies. We traveled on the large gears by hopping on them like we were in some arcade game, and fought some dwarven spiders here and there. We arrived at a gate that would take us to a higher level, and found a dwarven ballista that Wolf and I didn't let go of. We had stored it in the cube after dismantling it to study it later. As we reached the second floor, we were moving from pillar to pillar by spinning them to connect the bridges on them. It was a good puzzle, and we passed it safely. We felt like a day has passed, so we stopped after we arrived at Falbthar's boilery and spent the night in the cube. Later the next day, we went to solve the puzzle of the boilery, and it was, let's say, it became a bit hairy. There was a steam-powered dwarven mechanism controlled by kinetic resonators. Each would charge the mechanism with a certain number of charges, and we had a charge at only 20 charges. Any more would trigger some annoying traps. The first time we almost opened the doors of hell on ourselves, so I solved it how I remember right away. No room for training if it is risky. From left to right 1, 2, 5. We finally passed the boilery and arrived at the Grand Hall of Falbthar's, and fought some dwarven ballistas that were really tough. In the end, we arrived at 3 dynamo actuators that must be filled by Centurion dynamo cores. These cores come from the dwarven Centurion, the largest and strongest regular machines left by the dwarves. I said regular because they're larger, but not common. Do we have to fight those giants? Joel pointed at the 2 dormant dwarven Centurions at the end of the room. Yes, lure one by a bolt and hit it from far away. It is slow, and the room is too large for it to reach us. As the plan went, we all switched to magic and summoned our flame Atronak horses to keep our mobility high, as well as frost and storm Atronachs to distract the dwarven Centurions. And the fight began. And the fight ended an hour later. We destroyed the 2 large dwarven Centurions and dismantled them to recover the cores. I can't believe this thing can let out a steam breath. It made the frost Atronachs melt like ice. Did you see how it hit the storm Atronachs? They were flying like toys. In the end, we recovered the dynamo cores and placed them on the 3 dynamo actuators. Fortunately, there was one the before, so we managed to open the last gate splendidly. Behind that gate was our sweet trophy. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.